all, and welcome to another Desert Island Games. Do not panic, you are on the right channel. This isn't the voice of a certain retro bear. This is actually the voice of Gernaldinho Plays, because it is revenge time. Yes, I've been fortunate enough to be thrown on that desert island and have a go at this, but this time we've grabbed the bear, we've chucked him on the boat, and we've kicked it back out again. So it's his turn. And of course, the format stays the same. We are going to give him 6 games of his choice. We're going to give him another game, which is a second chance game. And then finally, just like he does to all of us, we're going to tease him with an 8th final game. A game that he absolutely hates and has to suffer while he's there. So I think with all that said and done, I think it's time to bring the man in. And may I say, by the way, it's an absolute honour to be given the duty of hosting this to the man who is one of the greatest hosts on YouTube. Bring yourself in to your own channel, Mr. Bear. How are you?
I'm very well, Rob. Thank you very much indeed for that rather gracious opening. And I want to say right off the bat, thank you very much indeed for stepping forward. And you know, this was your idea, I think, originally, wasn't it? I think you mentioned that if I was going to do this myself, that you would like to do it. So I'm very pleased that you agreed to do that. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, I brought it up, but I'm sure that you must have had it in the back of your mind somewhere. But yeah, I was keen to do this because we need to hear you. We need to hear you. We need to hear your choices, and we need to tease you at the end. And obviously, we'll give you a second chance of a game, but we really want to know which one we're teasing you with, and all sort of play get your own back. I'm sort of a poor man's Dave Benson Phillips here, aren't I? So, you know.
No, it's honestly, it was going to happen one day, but yeah, it's come now. It's an ideal time to do it because it's just before Christmas and stuff like that, and it's been a long year of interviewing people and recording people, yourself included. So it's only really fair to sort of put myself in the hot seat. So I'm glad it's you doing it as well. There are a few people I would have liked to have done it, but you know, you were right at the very top of that list. So you know, I hope this is going to be a good experience for yourself, and it's going to be an interesting experience for me as well.
It will be an interesting experience indeed, absolutely, and it's always interesting where these start as well. So, because obviously you do people's console history as well. We cover that as we go along and do all of these games. And I'm always fascinated with people's starts in the when you do these and people's console history. What got them into where we are today? With that huge wall of Wii games behind you. What basically ultimately got that going at the very beginning? So where did your console history start, my friend?
Well, when it all began for me very, very early age. Now, I mean, I was born in 1975, so obviously, rumours of me being older than that are now being quashed. And when we started, I mean, my parents picked up this particular console. And I knew nothing about it. I had no exposure whatsoever to video games, computing at all by that point. I've been thinking about it. Thought, how on earth this sort of came about, I don't know. But my parents had a couple of friends they were very close with, and they bought the same thing at the same time. So, again, I can't remember how it came about, but one day it all of a sudden appeared in a box out of absolutely nowhere, and it was an Atari 2600. Which was a great starting point. This has got to be around about, I've got to say, 1980 to 81, something like that, because purely of the games that we got for the system afterwards. It's got to be around that point. I must have been maybe six years old, something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say this is a learning experience for me because I mean we've already done me on this, and I came in very late to the console side of things and through the arcade. So anything sort of, well, certainly pre-16-bit is a little bit hazy with me, even with Master System and NES. I didn't really own those. So I mean, this is going way back for me, and is a massive sort of lesson for me every time I hear someone talk about these. So yeah. I mean, when you actually got your hands on one, what was the sort of the first impressions of it? I mean, can you remember?
I can't remember. I remember being fascinated by, just the fact this computer thing was there, and it was plugged into the telly straight through the back of the aerial. It was made of wood. It was one of the original sort of wood veneer ones, so it looked a bit different. It was very, 70s, 80s, early 80s looking. And it was just all the colours on the screen and then the graphics. I mean, obviously the graphics of 2600, nothing to shout about. Everybody knows that's played anything like that. You can go back and look at these games. They're all horrible looking things with terrible graphics. But that's not the point of it. A lot of these games are very, very playable. So I remember being... games we played initially, Combat, which is one of the most common games available for the system, which was based around military vehicles and tanks and planes and all sorts. And then you had the obvious games at the time, like Space Invaders and Pac-Man. Honestly, the Pac-Man 2600 version was utterly terrible, but that really didn't make any difference when you're that age. Yeah, it doesn't make... yeah, it doesn't make any difference when you're that age. You just play it. And then games like Smurf, Circus Atari. There's just so many of them. But you got these cartridges. You were fascinated by putting these cartridges into the top of the system, turning it on, the great big switches on the side of it, the paddle controllers. That's another fascination. What are these things? Because if you've never seen a paddle before, it's a sort of a plastic controller with a red fire button on the side, and you've got this circular disc in the middle, which you just sort of move from side to side. So we've been playing things like Breakout, which modern day equivalent would be Arkanoid, I suppose, if some people know about that, or Alleyway on the Game Boy.
Alleyway on the Game Boy, as one springs to mind.
Yeah, so you
Breakout, didn't they? So
that's it. So you control it with that. So it's a completely different thing. But I don't know what it's hard to explain, Rob. But what the initial connection with it was just an immediate sort of like, wow, this is great, and just being obsessed by playing some of these games. And probably the one I put most time into start with Space Invaders. I got literally obsessed with playing that game, so much so that with the Atari joystick, which as we know is again not the greatest joystick to have, I remember taking the skin off the inside of my thumb on the webbing. I'm just showing you there, which nobody else can see, and having a blister across there just by playing that too hard. If you get Space Invader thumb, I think my mum called it at the time, which was quite funny. But the boxes...
Yeah. Sorry, I just said I've had history with playing arcade games like that myself as well. I remember, we're going very modern here, but X-Men versus Street Fighter, when you do a power move, if you quickly hit the 3 top buttons and 3 bottom buttons, you can make the combo last longer. And I got obsessed with that game in the arcade, and I would do that. And I would actually have blisters sort of across, the tops of the palm of my hand just below my fingers from where I'd be playing the game so much. So
yeah,
I know that can be easily caused.
I get that now with the analog sticks on PlayStation 4. If I've been playing Fall Guys or something too long, then I do tend to get a little bit of soreness on the top of my thumbs now. I don't know, I've got crap skin, probably that's what it is. But also, the colours of the boxes were amazingly different colours: orange boxes, red boxes, blue boxes, aqua colour boxes, purple. Just the artwork on the boxes as well, just fascinating to watch. There's something like Outlaw, which was a brown box based on cowboys. Not fantastically exciting to look at in terms of the colour, but the artwork on the front of the box, again, a lot of artwork through games, games that era and into the 80s were just brilliant. So it's a whole experience just from buying the games. And the games themselves, we were picking them up so cheaply. There's a place not far from here on the way to, I think it's Albury, sort of between here and West Bromwich. And there's a place, at the time it was called the Saver Centre, which I think is now a Sainsbury's. And we always just called it the Big Onion because on top of the building was this like cone-shaped dome. So we knew if we go in there, they used to have like tons of 2600 games in buckets. Probably my obsession with bargain buckets started then, because we were rifling into the buckets trying to find these games. And of course, mum and dad's friends had the same system as well, so they would buy different games to what mum and dad were buying, and then they swap them out. You see, so we get there was lots of games that I had. Empire Strikes Back's another one, but Spider-Man, which was from the same company, Parker Brothers, in a silver box with a slightly different cartridge, they had that, so we swapped that out, and we had Razor Lost Ark and E.T. They had Sky Skipper and Kangaroo. So we just swapped the games out. So he thought, oh, can I borrow this one? So to be dad's friend, can I borrow this one? And he said, yeah, well, can I borrow that? He said, yeah, okay. So we just swapped games around. It was just fantastic. It really was.
that's something that's been lost a little bit, isn't it? But certainly with the digital era, back in the cartridge era of any cartridge era, it was always about swapping games as well, wasn't it? But can I just mention you said about the boxes, weren't they? They were sort of in a distinctive one-off colour each, weren't they?
That's right. That's right.
Design on the front, yeah. It's just that I see collection videos on YouTube, and some people literally they put them in colour blocks. And I
really?
Just an amazing sight, because that's not alphabetized, is it? If you do that.
No,
but I just think as a sight that is really impressive. I like that. It's just very neat. I can imagine it would actually look quite awful if you staggered them around into sort of multiple colours by alphabetising. But
you could probably get that by going into any independent game shop. I mean, I know you vintage game a lot, and they've got a smallish collection of box 2600 games. But yeah, you're right. And of course, when the 2600 was repackaged, they got rid of the old wooden look. They went for a more sleeker black plastic with like a silver trim on it and then like a rainbow stripe. All the boxes then went silver, so it took away that exciting colour, and they all went a bit uniform. So. Yeah, so you know, like we have, PlayStation 2's got the blue spines, Xbox 360's got the green one. You'll know about that.
Yeah,
they went more uniform towards the end of the 2600's life, so they looked a bit smarter. But that exciting independent colour scheme gone.
You lost the colour to your shelves, if anything, by the sounds of it.
And of course, the great thing about them as well, the design on the boxes occasionally made it onto the sticker on the actual cartridge itself. And ideal for collectors now, probably not the time, because we know what cardboard's like. Cardboard gets destroyed very easily. You can't keep hold of them. With the 2600 cartridges, you'd have the name of the game on the top of it. So now if you're racking your 2600 loose cartridges together, you can just put them up in alphabetical order. You can see exactly which ones they are. So it was very good, and the cartridge had the details of what the game was on the front and different variations of it. Of course, again, that was it. You might say 63 games in this cartridge, but we can guarantee that of those 63 games, 10 of those will be a variation of one game.
Yeah,
and some
get it done, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes I remember the combat game, which was basically Pong with tanks, but you'd have a variation. So you have one-on-one combat, then you'd have a maze, or then you'd have one where you could fire bullets off the wall and bounce round. Or the one that used to make us all really, really wonder was your vehicle would disappear. So you got no idea where you were. The only time you could see your vehicle was if somebody hit you.
All right.
Which, just trying to increase the difficulty level. I mean, ridiculously stupid idea, but you can see what they were trying to do to get the most stuff on the cartridge. And you've got to bear in mind that these things were so minimal in terms of memory. To do what they did was amazing, absolutely amazing at the time.
That's yeah. Do you know what? I've never had any experience with an Atari 2600. I've never played one. Still to this day. I mean, I always say that I kind of miss this era, but I have actually sort of played other sort of microcomputers from this era. When I went to school, friends had them. I didn't have them, but my friends had them, and I used to go around and play them. I used to play Spectrums, Commodore 64s, and things like that. And no doubt you'll have had the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
I would imagine. We did as kids, didn't we?
That's right.
I mean, do kids still do that nowadays? Do they still go around their mates' houses to play games? Has the online taken over that much?
Well, it's interesting.
Or couch versus still a thing outside of the obvious fighting games and football games? I don't know.
It's a good question, because that was part. This is something I want to touch on as we go along with this. But I've always found gaming to be a very solitary experience. But there were times when I was younger, probably more solitary now as the time has gone on. But when I was younger, you was going around your mate's house, or you're swapping games, or you go around after school, or go around the weekend, or whatever. And I was still doing that into my mid-20s. But since then, you say with the birth of online play, it's just the way you can do it. I play games online with people from all over the country. I don't do a great deal of it, but it's a completely different way of doing it now.
I was to say, I mean, I've never really been an online versus player, or even a local versus player. I like to play the co-op side of things, so I must admit I was always like that. But going around with friends and playing like Streets of Rage or something like that was just absolute amazing. It's great fun, And of course, arcades had loads of co-op stuff as well.
That's it.
So, no, it was absolutely great fun. But we've touched on the Atari 2600, so shall we bring your first game in?
We may as well, yes, we may as well.
First gaming, because just like you talking to me about the Atari 2600, obviously, and the fact that I've never even touched one in my life, which shall get rectified one day. It will.
I should hope so.
Educate me about this first game as well. And the first game is?
First game is Frostbite, which there is a brief gameplay on my channel about this one. And I didn't play the original. I actually haven't got a physical copy of it. Which is, I mean, I've got 2600 and physical cartridge. It's not my original 2600. It's a completely different one. But I hope one day to get a physical copy of this, because it just brings back so many memories. When this came out, I think both my dad and his mate Lawrence got one copy each. And what was so fascinating about this game, in the fact that back then there was a high score challenge. You know, we have high score challenges now. This was slightly different in the fact that Activision, who made the game, put in there that if you scored over a certain amount, you could take a photograph. This, bear in mind, we were talking the early 1980s. There's no internet. There's no, nothing like that at all. People are still using stamped. What? Sorry.
No Photoshop. No cheating.
Yeah. Nothing like that whatsoever. There's no. People are still using stamped addressed envelopes and paying things by postal order and all that cobblers. And you had to send a photograph even of your high score, and then they would send you a badge back, which basically, I think he said, I think it was just like Frostbite Activision badge. Nothing really special about it. A tiny little thing. But my dad's mate Lawrence, he actually managed to get I think it was 40,000 points, and he sent away for his badge, and I was insanely jealous of doing that. So it then became my obsession to try and emulate this, and lots of practice was put into it. And the concept of Frostbite, if you've not seen it, I know you were trying to work it out beforehand, but it was you've got a little Eskimo character, and you are on the shore of the ice floe, and beneath that you've got 4 ice floes which go 1 and 3 go left to right, 2 and 4 go right to left. They move across the screen, and the idea is you jump on each ice floe and it changes colour. Every time it changes colour, it puts a little brick of an igloo, and the idea is to build the igloo up. It'll give a little hole, and then you jump in that to move on to the next level. To make it a little bit more difficult, there's snow geese and crabs and clams, which they move along the ice floe, which basically push you off. So you've got to be quick about it. It's a reaction game, and occasionally you have a longer ice floe, but on some of those levels it's static. Some of those the ice floe moves back and forth, so you might have you've got 4 different blocks on each ice floe, and occasionally you'll start with 8 and then they'll move into 4 and then back out into 8, so they move back and forth. So again, you're going to make sure you're jumping correctly. And I think there's fish on there as well, but you get the fish as a bonus. And as the game gets more and more into it, it adds a polar bear across the top, so you then have to jump across the ice floe, and then when you're trying to get back to your igloo, which has been completely built, you have to avoid the polar bear, because otherwise if you land on the polar bear, it will chase you off the screen and you lose a life. And then to make things even more difficult, it changes colour, so you have night levels as well. So on the igloo, the light, the hole in the igloo now becomes a light which flashes to indicate that there's it's dark at night, and it just gets faster and faster and faster. And it's an absolute game of reaction, and you have to be really good at it. And I've tried it recently, and my reaction time, obviously, as we get older, is not quite as good as it was before. But when I was younger, after months and months and months and months of practice, I actually managed to get the 40,000 points.
Nice.
So, unfortunately, by the time I got the 40,000 points, there was a closing date, wasn't there? So I never actually got to send my score in for a badge. But we had that photograph for years, and honestly, I cannot remember what happened to it. I wish I'd still got it, because it would have had a date on the back. Yeah.
I've never heard of this game, and if this isn't selling it to anybody, then I don't know what is, because now I've got an absolute desire to play this game.
Mm.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. It's frustrating because sometimes it gets too quick, and you are literally just going boing, 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 down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down the screen, down the screen. You are living off split-second reactions, and it gets a bit unplayable, really. But
when I first heard you talk about it, I was obviously, when you said you're up here four things that I'm thinking, oh, hang on, this sounds a little bit Frogger-esque. But then, as you're explaining it more and more, you realise, well, you could probably tag element of Frogger about it, but it's nothing like it, really, is it? It's like, well, it's got much more of a challenge to it by the sounds of it. It's not just from getting from one side to another, is it?
That's right. I mean, the early levels, because everything moves so slowly and you know what you're doing, you could probably complete it by going up and down the ice flows without needing to go back onto the land. You don't need to go onto the land for any particular reason other than to finish the game off, level off, and move on to the next one. So you could probably do that, the early levels, just by jumping up and down the ice flows really, really quickly. Obviously, the quicker you do it, the more points you get. But as it gets later on, you just don't have that time to think. You've just got to try and be best you can one move ahead of yourself. And you're quite literally just bounce, and then you'll find I've been knocked into the water, I've missed a jump or whatever. But for the system it was on, Rob, the graphics are really, really, really good. I mean, remember, we're talking a basic system here. I mean, the snow geese are, all animated. The crabs bob up and down. The clams move up and down. The fish bob up and down. The polar bears going back and forth at the top. You've got northern lights flickering at the top of the screen to give an indication you're in the Arctic Circle. You obviously got the light which flashes when you're on a night level. The sound effects are very basic as well, but the surprise is when you jump on the polar bear sort of makes like a growling, gnashing noise. He chases you off the screen, and you scared my sister that was first. It's like, oh no, I don't like that, but it just adds so much to it. There's just so much fun in that game, and it is like a speedrun high score. That's all it is at the end of the day. There's no. It'll just loop round and loop round and loop round. All you can do is you're just trying to beat your highest score and keep going with it. But I just play that game for hours and hours, and I was disappointed when I played it recently because I'm not as good as I used to be. But I was still there for a good hour and a half trying to, just one more go. So even after all these years, it's there.
It sounds like one of those games, those one more go games. One more go, and before you know it, 2 hours has gone by, and you were supposed to go out half hour ago.
That's it.
Kind of lost time to the game. So when you were saying about what was going on in the game, I was still bearing in mind I knew what console it was on, and I was just like, that sounds like a lot for what the console should be capable of. If that sounds right, I don't know how to word it, but it does sound impressive.
I mean, some of the games on the system look like dots and dashes and blobs and squares and circles and things, and yes, they are. There's no getting around that. But as the system obviously got older, people who were used to programming for it and making games for it were able to do little cheats. When anybody played like Yar's Revenge, for example, another great game, there's a vortex in the middle which is just made up of it looks like interference, but to do something like that in a cartridge, it looks so effective. If you look at something like Smurf, which again is also on my channel, that game, it's got the world's most annoying theme tune, don't get me wrong, but it is one of the most beautiful looking games on that system. It looks better than some 8-bit games that came out not long afterwards. But bottom line is its playability. It's what brings you back. Yeah, after 2 hours, you might be fed up the fact you can't get any further with it, but you will keep going, just one more go, just one more go, just one more go. And that's what you want at the end of it. And that's what games were like back then. They might not look like much, but if they kept dragging you back in to keep you playing, it's job done.
It's simplicity sometimes that wins over in games like that. And do you know what? I'm going to quote a line from one of my favourite film franchises, and I absolutely love this line to bits because I kind of relate it to a lot of things, and it goes back to gaming. And it's from Jigsaw / Saw 8. And the line is, the game's simple, the best ones are. And he says that obviously just before he does one of his traps. Yeah. And I hear that line, and I think of all those games that we grew up with. The simpler they were, it just seemed the more they drew us in and they got us wanting to play more, your Space Invaders, your Pac-Man. And this game, Frostbite that you just got on about, just seems like it's one of those as well that just goes on to it. I wish I could remember the name of it, but I played an old top-down car racing game where it's literally just a road in the middle and your car, I forget what it's called. Your car goes up and you just dodge the cars as they drop down from the top. And I was setting scores on that and I was just like, I can do better than that. I can get further than that. And it was just one more go. And it was because the game was, the game was simple, and it was just, but it didn't need to be any more complex.
That's right. That's right.
And it just sounds like one of those games.
There's a cracking driving game on the 2600 called Enduro, which is very much that sort of thing. Again, it simulates night level. It simulates fog, because you've got the car at the bottom of the screen. You're actually trying to pass cars as you go up, and it simulates fog. So it basically sort of clouds up the screen and just above the top of your car. So you've got no idea what you can see in front of you. It's just absolutely, the idea is absolutely brilliant. And that game is a fantastic racing game. It really is. But yeah, they were just so simple back then, and you know, you got so much joy out of them. And I know, I always say to people, I said, well, if you didn't grow up in that era, it's probably going to be quite difficult for me to sell something like this to you, but give it a go. If you give it a go and you don't like it, that's fair enough. Just don't dismiss these things out of hand and think, oh, well, that looks terrible, or, oh, you know, I don't want to play something like that. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some terrible games, but there's some really good ones on there. Really, really good.
And I'll tell you what, the legacy of these games has kind of sort of been cemented by the fact that they still keep making compilations for them. Keep making ones systems that you plug into your TV. You've got things like the Evercade, you know, and they clearly still have a desirability and a popularity to want to be played this day, that they keep putting these compilations and these systems out. So, I mean, a long may it live on, I say, to be honest with you.
I agree. I mean, if anybody can find and there's an Atari Flashback, which is again, he's an emulator. Probably the first mini console that came out. I mean, 2600 was quite small anyway, but I've got one of the early versions, and again, it's about 30 games on that, and that's all you need just to experience it. I mean, you can buy the the Atari anthology on PlayStation 2 for about £3. I mean, have a go on there. The games are emulated, but you still get a good feel for them. You know, you haven't got to invest too much money in it. Yeah, if you want to do it properly, go and buy 2600 and some games. If you want to try and do it differently, go and get one of these compilations that you mentioned there, or, you know, an Evercade cartridge, or a plug and play, something like that.
So the Atari 2600 got you obviously going and into these sort of games, obviously, that we've touched on. So, like, where did it go on from there?
Well, we had that for
step for you, you know.
Well, we had that for quite a few years. I think it eventually disappeared about 1988. When I say disappeared, it did disappear because I sold it to a friend of mine at school for about £30. And because his brothers were, you know, not exactly the nicest of people, they basically robbed it off him and stole it, and then they sold it on. So it's a real shame what happened to it. I was absolutely gutted when I heard that had happened. But of course, around that time, I've got the 2600, and you know, occasionally people come around and play on it. But all my friends at the time were on the micros, so they were playing Commodore 64 mostly. I had exposure to the Spectrum once, I think, and a friend of mine had a VIC-20, which I played on probably 2 or 3 times. Another guy had a Commodore 16+4, which it is like a watered-down Commodore 64. It's incredibly bizarre system to play on. But the one I really ended up playing a huge amount during that time was the 64. And no matter what I tried to convince my parents at the time, was they just weren't having it. They just would not buy a computer. And I'm not sure why. I don't know if I actually got the real reason for it. I mean, the guy who used to go around the most was used to up the road from me, literally about 5 minutes up the road. So we were going around all the time, and he'd have all the... Because I think his parents were quite well off, so he had all the games, all the arcade conversions, you know, Barbarian, Renegade, you know, Operation Wolf. But he was a big sport. He used to play a lot of sports when he was a kid, like I did. So he had all the sports games as well. So he had, you know, on-field football, which is American football. He had the Game Set Match compilation. So we had Daley Thompson's games. We had Emin Hughes' International Football, which is still one of the best football games on that system, if not the best one. Anything to do with tennis, golf, leaderboard. We used to play hours on leaderboard. I mean, Christ, I must have been about 10, 11 years old. We were playing golf games, you know, and leaderboard was probably the most in-depth game at the time. You had to sort of judge for shots for wind, and you know, if you didn't, the power gauge, when you get absolutely right, and make sure you didn't hook or slice it. So much in-depth to it. You know, I can play they're very, very basic compared to golf games now, but back then they were revolutionary. Anything that I got sport on it, we were playing it. And he had so many games. We just spent hours around there. We used to practically live there at times. It was embarrassing the amount of time we used to go around, and there might be 3 or 4 of us around there at the time. So it was just great, and I really wanted one of these, but my parents just wouldn't budge on it, and I just can't fathom for me the reason why. I don't know whether they thought it was a distraction, because my parents being teachers, obviously there was a lot of pressure when I was a kid to do well at school. Yeah. So whether, of course, they thought it was that, I don't know. So umming and ahhing and badgering just didn't do me any good whatsoever. And then I went to high school in 87. So I then hook up with a guy who's got an Atari ST, which is the next step up. So we move up from the 8 bits to 16 bits. And one of the very first conversations I had with him, he said, so you got any computers? I said, oh, well, I've got an Atari at home. He said, oh, yeah, I've got an Atari as well. I'll bring you some games in tomorrow. So he bought some games in. And I was like, great, you know, and I bought him a couple of games in. This is before I sold it. And then I got home and I thought, hang on a second, these cartridges look really, really small. So I got the Atari out and then realised that these cartridges were about half the size. And what he'd actually given me were, I think it was Atari 400/800 cartridges for a home computer. And I've never seen cartridges like that before or since. It's the only time I've ever seen them. And obviously when... God,
I was going to say, no, this is still all very much an education to you. No, mate, it's absolutely fascinating. It really is.
So he came in the next day, so this cartridge is too big. And I said, well, this cartridge is too small. So I've seen Atari, I've seen a 400 and 800 since then, but I'd never even heard of them at the time. But then he got an Atari ST, and I remember going around his house. We were quite close. I used to go around and watch. I remember going around his house. Again, they were very, very well off. They had a snooker table, but not like a small snooker table, a big snooker table, because he had two brothers. One of them had learning difficulties, but he loved playing snooker, so they bought him a snooker table. So Rodney was always playing snooker and went around. He was a lovely man, but he was always playing snooker when I was going around there. And they had Sky as well. First people I ever knew had Sky.
So that we knew, didn't we? Everybody.
That's it. Well, my mate up the road eventually got Sky not long after this other guy at school. So there's two people I knew, but I wasn't so much friends with Bully up the road. Not Bully because he was a bully, but that was his nickname. I was less friends with him at the time, though we were, we still played cricket for Elzone and things like that. I was more mates with this other guy, and so he had Sky. So I remember going around there, and because he got me into wrestling, which is another tangent which we won't go on for this particular one. That's where all that.
About that, couldn't we?
We could do, but he was the one who got me into that. So he was always getting me tapes, and I spend a couple of go around and stay over a couple of nights and whatever. And we found his ST. It's like this complete. It's like wow, it's completely different to the Commodore 64. All of a sudden, it's like, and then you find it's 2 or 3 people at school who've got an ST. I never even heard of these things before. And bear in mind, I like the consider myself somebody who knew a fair bit about computer games at the time, but not so much the systems. So the next conversation I'm sort of having with my parents is, oh, can we get one of these instead? And it's like, no, we're not getting one of those. And again, I'm not sure what happened, but something changed. I don't know whether we came into some money or something, I don't know, or whether they were just fed up with me banging on about it. But eventually they decided, well, we're going to have a look at one of these Amigas. A what? An Amiga. What are we going to look at an Amiga for? No one I know has got an Amiga. Because obviously what you're thinking at the back of your mind is, if I've got an Amiga, who am I going to swap games with? Everybody at school's got Atari STs. If I get an Amiga, I'm going to swap games with anybody. So it was very much one or the other. And my dad found somewhere in the local paper a guy who was selling them. And he was selling them out of his bedroom. That's what he was doing. Because we went to try and find it the one Saturday, and we couldn't find it. And of course, in those days, once again, we're talking 1989 here, there's no mobile phones. There's no texting or anything like that. So we couldn't find it. So we had to go home, and then my dad had to phone him, find out exactly where he was, and then we had to go back out again. See, nowadays, you just pull the car over, ring the number. Hello, mate, can't find your shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it turns out, he said, I hadn't got a shop. He said, I work from home. So I had to go around to his house. And then obviously his spare bedroom was his office and his showroom. And he got Amigas and STs. He got all the stuff. So we're thinking, great. And then he starts doing a sale job with my dad, doesn't he? Okay. My dad's obviously done a little bit of research beforehand, because he knows that with the Amiga, you get a lot of educational software. Ooh, great. Right. This is where we're going, isn't it? And with the ST, you get an awful lot of games. Games bad, educational software is good. So I'm with him. I'm not liking the way this is going at all. And I said, well, bear in mind that the ST was £100 cheaper than the Amiga at this point. £100 cheaper. I think it was Sorry.
So a lot of money, especially back then as well.
Yeah, we're talking $2.99, I think, for the ST, and we're talking at minimum $3.99 for the Amiga. That's hundreds of pounds, not £3.99. In case anybody's confused. So I'm trying to say, sort of trying to be dad a favour. Look, the ST's cheaper, right? You can do word processing and all that really boring shit on it that you want me to do, but you get loads of games with it. And the bloke was going, oh, so you don't, yeah. And I said, those games that come free with the ST. He says, waste of time. He said, you'll finish most of those really, really quickly. Okay, I'll come back to that in a second. And then he says to me, Dad, said, hey, you want to buy the Amiga? He said, and I think what he did, my dad went with all his education software, word processing stuff, music programs, stuff that we got on the day we had the Amiga and still stayed in the box years later. Immaculate, I think they were. We did get them out, but they were just no use to anybody, because exactly what happened to the Amiga was what they didn't want to happen. We turned into playing games on. And at the time, the Amiga had a pack in called the Batman pack, which was using the story of F18 Interceptor, Batman, a movie. And he said to me, I'll sell you this and the monitor, which is the educational stuff. You start chucking the Batman games for 20 quid or some stupidly monetary value. So my dad bought it. So all this educational software, which we never actually used. He bought a monitor to go with it as well, which is great because, they're obviously splashing out here. And we got, some gaming software to go with it. Thank God for that. So, of course, go back to school and tell everybody, oh, yeah, we bought an Amiga. And like, oh, you bought an Amiga. Oh, no one's got an Amiga. Oh, you're on your own, aren't you, over there in the corner? Sort of crying out loud. Of course, 12 months later, everybody got Amigas. Everybody for Christmas 1990 got an Amiga, and there was only my friend who had the ST. There's only him left who had an ST at the end of it. It's absolutely bizarre. So, in answer to your question 10 minutes ago, my next system was the Amiga 500.
No, mate, I'll tell you what, I can listen to you talk ages when you pull out stories like that. That was absolutely fascinating. And the funny thing about those stories is it's almost like you had a very similar sort of bringing into home consoles as I did, because I spoke to you, my parents were kind of like, no, play outside and do all this, and I had a very sort of a very different introduction to systems, so we say, with finally being allowed to sort of to have one, and no, fascinating, absolutely fascinating, mate. So
I think it's almost perfect recall. I think that's how it went anyway, but yeah.
Mate, that's more than I could remember about my story. That was, honestly, mate, I was living it. The way you went through that. That was amazing. It's quite funny. It's almost like your dad was trying to justify it by saying, no, you can have this one because it's educational. We're giving in to you, and I'm justifying it because it's got the educational side to it. But, I really know deep down he's not going to touch those and play the games. Yeah. So,
I think that was the concern. As I said about the interesting thing about that ST packing, and I mentioned this on, what did I mention this to? I might have mentioned on live stream recently, I don't know. But the fascinating thing about that Discovery pack, wasn't a Discovery pack, it was, I can't remember what it's called now. But there were so many great games on that ST. You got R-Type and you got Outrun, you got Space Harrier. So many fantastic games in it. And I've learned years, like, I bought an ST at the end of last year, and I got all those games packed in with it. So whoever had ST kept all those games original, got all those games, which is fantastic. So I remember them. I thought, oh, this is great. And I read about it afterwards, and because those games were so good and people got so much playability out of them, ST software didn't sell very well because people kept hold of the games they got with the packing and were playing those. So what this bloke had told my dad was complete load of cobblers. Absolute rubbish. So but yeah, it was, I didn't know that. So we end up Christmas 1989 with an Amiga and 3 games to go with it.
What were those 3 games?
New Zealand Story, which I'd never even heard of before. Never even heard of. But was an arcade conversion of an arcade game I'd never seen before either. So, but fantastic platform, but one of the best. Yeah, really is good on it. Every system. Every system. I don't think there's a bad version of it. F18 Interceptor, which was a flight simulator from Electronic Arts, which was set around the San Francisco Bay Area. And that was difficult. You know, if you're not into flight simulators and you've got no interest in them, it was very much... Why they put that game in there with it, I don't know. But they have done. And then obviously there's Batman the movie, which, you know, was an amazing game.
Amazing game. So, should we go to the second choice and bring that up then, seeing as, well...
Yeah, we're there now.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Now. So, choice number 2 is officially...
Batman the movie on the Amiga, yeah. The very first game I loaded up on the Amiga. And what do I like about this one so much to take it with me? Given the fact that I used to consistently put it in and finish it in one sitting. That was obviously years ago. If I tried it now, I think I've got a copy of it somewhere, certainly. If not on the Amiga, definitely on the ST, knocking about somewhere. But you just put this disc in and it started up. And you got this picture of the Michael Keaton Batman with the Batman logos going behind him. And then this sort of music starts and you get some sample speech come through, which is just like, wow, I've never, you know, this is really good. And the game itself, I think you look back at it now, it's probably a little bit ponderous in places. The platform levels probably haven't survived as well as they should do. But the one level which sticks out for me, and I've said it so many times now, I apologise for you've heard these stories before, but this is where we are with that, I'm afraid. The driving level, where you've got to drive the Batmobile through Gotham City in a limited time period, is just one of the best driving game section, well, not necessarily a section of a game, but probably one of the best driving games I've ever played, because it's quick, it's fast, the music is pounding out the speakers as you go along, and you've got to remember that at certain points you need to press the fire button to fire your batarang out the side of the vehicle, hook around a lamppost and make the turning, because if you miss 3 turnings in a row, you hit a roadblock and you lose a life. So it's, you know, some sections are long driving bits, some are really short between turnings, and you just got to cover the distance as quickly as possible. But it just moves at a great speed. There's other cars on the road at the same time, getting in the way. It's reaction. You know, talking about reactions earlier, it's like reactions again. But that 2.5 minutes, and it's not a very long section at all, is just amazing. It blew me away at the time, and it still does now. I watch videos on YouTube about it. It's like, God, this is brilliant. And cementing around that, you've got a platform level at the start of the game, which ends up with the Batman encountering the Joker for the first time, or Jack Napier as he's in the film before he turns into the Joker. Then you've got the driving section. Then you have this puzzle section where you've got to try and get the right formula to as the antidote for the Smilex, I think it was called in the film, which is completely random, because you've got like 5 elements, and you have to like pick them, and it'll tell you how many you got right and how many you got wrong, but not which order you've got them in. So sometimes you could do it straight off. Sometimes you'd be sitting there pressing every single combination you can do, and you wouldn't do it, and you'd lose all your lives, and that would be it. The 4th section of the game was similar to the driving section, but you're driving the Batwing this time, and you've got to cut the lines between the balloons which are going around, and the key on that one is to drive to fly at a certain speed, because every time you cut a balloon you incur a little bit of damage, so it's finding the balance between that, again time period as well. And then the 5th level's set in the cathedral at the end of the film, and another platform game. But it's just a perfect package, and Ocean, who put the game together at the time, were getting quite synonymous for this. In fact, if anything, they got probably quite lazy, because they were the software house would get all the big film tie-ins like Untouchables and RoboCop. They were probably hamstrung by the original arcade, because it broke it down into sections. But they had that formula of, like, you know, you'd have a platform section and the driving section and the puzzle section and a shooting section and another platform section, and all their games eventually ended up being based around that. And people end up sort of like saying these were great then, but now they're just tired and they need changing. But Batman probably was the pinnacle of that. It was the highest point they reached with it, and it was just a sensational game. It really was.
Well, I can agree with you there, because I mean, we spoke a little about this one, you know, before we went on air, didn't we? Because I haven't had a lot of exposure to games from that time period. Certainly within that time period. But I did say to you before, is it this game? And I did actually describe it to you. So, for the fact, for someone who wasn't really around that much and with the systems and having chances to play those games, I remember that game vividly. And like you said, for me, it was all about getting to the driving level. All I wanted to do was get that first platforming section out of the way and drive the Batmobile and do that. And like you said, that was majorly impressive again for the system and its capabilities for the time. And as I say, it blew me away. And it was, like you said, all about timing, getting that rope to hit the lamppost and make the bend, obviously. So
that's it. I think the fact that the way it just starts up, you get a blank screen and it just gets me, it goes, duh, 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 and then you get the Streets of Gotham City title of the level on it, and then it fades into the game. And I know there were different variants. I think the Mega Drive version, I don't think was a direct version of this, but had some quite similar sections. Well, I've not played a great deal of that. And of course, there was the NES Sunsoft game, which was again not quite the same as this one, but there were elements from that in there as well. Obviously made by completely different people. So that one film, which was the big film of 1989, I'm so much hype about it that I remember as a child. Was that child a teenager, 14 then when it came out, near enough. So much going on about it. And even the 8-bit versions were very, very good as well. They were obviously not graphically as good. That the driving sections were side-on as opposed to 3D. But they were all very, very good. And I don't think there was, again, bad version of it. So in terms of the packing games, they were a great little package. New Zealand Story was God, how many levels that game have? 7 or 8 worlds, I think it was, 3 or 4 levels each. There was a lot of levels to it. And if you really want to sit down and play F18 Interceptor, then you could do. You could do. But I
get rid of it just to pack that in.
And it came in one of those stupid security wheels as well, which
the protection.
Yeah, protect. But I think this is. I don't know what it's to do with the game as well. I can't remember. It's a great big blue wheel to go with it. But I bought loads of games. I think I'm the only person I've discovered since then who's bought loads of games for the Amiga at the time, actually paying money for them as opposed to knowing a man who put your game on a disc for £2, as everybody else seemed to do. But obviously at school, so many people had Amigas within the 12 months after I had mine, that we were swapping games and, I bought this game. So you get a game off somebody, you get their original game, take it home and make a copy of it and take it back to them. Or get the copy of their game and make a copy of it and move on to somebody else. I sort of build up all the illegal versions, but I had loads of games. Kick-Off 2, Sensible Soccer, so Robocop, I had that, Chase HQ, Cabal, Shadow of the Beast, and 2. I was just trying to see what we've got behind me at the moment. Goal, Lethal Weapon, Championship Manager, Platoon, Line of Fire, PJ Tour Golf. I mean, golf games, but I mean, that was brilliant when it came out. PJ Tour Golf, the way it built the course up, you could pick 3 or 4 courses, have proper players, and some great stuff on there. I had a copy of Great Guy Honor Sisters at one point as well, which didn't last very long on the shelves. Mine was a copy, unfortunately. And of course, you got public domain, and you got porn discs as well. So I mean, it was just there was so much going on with it. There was a disc going around at our school called Chucky Egg 2, which did have Chucky Egg 2 on it, but there was some porn on beforehand.
So it was very popular.
It was incredible. Everybody had a copy of it. Have you got a copy of Chucky? Yeah, I can't get rid of them. Yeah, you have 10. There you go.
Brilliant. So, after the Amiga 500, where do we go from there?
Well, we had them. The next sort of system crosses over in between Stella and the Amiga, because we had the Amiga to probably. I'm trying to remember now. It's going to be towards the end of the 90s. So we had it for a long time. So all my mates are getting into consoles. This is where it starts getting a bit more crossy over and moving into other areas. So they're getting things like, a friend of mine had a Master System and never played on it, because I've been listening to this with my mate Jim. I've known Jim since the first day of high school. And it's a friendship we still hold to this day, even through everything else we've been through and all sorts. And he's still my dearest friend. And we met that first day at high school when he, for some reason, decided to stand in the girls' line as opposed to the boys' line. And I said, "You're meant to stand over here, mate," and that was it. Friendship forged. And we've had some ups and downs and some very, very fun moments and some not so fun moments, but that's how things go. And he had a Master System. He's the only person I knew with a Master System ever. But you never went around his house to play on it. I don't know why. Very, very few people were allowed inside his house ever. I've never... I don't think I ever made it too far. I made it to the garage and the front room, but I never actually made it, upstairs into his bedroom or his lounge or anything like that. He was very, 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 very weird. We used to joke about the fact that, he never used to let people into his house, and he always wore this Adidas jumper to school, and he never took it off. So he used to say he used to get home and close all the curtains, lock all the doors, and take his jumper off when he got home, so nobody could see he taking it off afterwards. But he was that. He also the first person I know to have a Mega Drive as well. So he was really into his gaming. And he saw the guy who had the ST had sort of moved into the Super Nintendo at this point. And then another guy at school who I'm also friends with now, still after all these years, he had a Super Nintendo. So I'm getting exposure to the 16-bit consoles. And I'm not liking the 16-bit consoles because there's some good games on it. And I'm getting a little bit jealous here because obviously Sonic's come out and blown everybody away. Mario's going strong. Then you get Super Mario World come out on the Super Nintendo and everyone's talking about how good that is. Street Fighter 2, the Super Star Wars games that came out. Obviously the Mega Drive had Sonic primarily. Jim used to get import games as well. So Talmit's Adventure, which I think was Marvel Land in Japan, was one he kept raving on about. Streets of Rage, you mentioned, we talked about that one. So they were getting all these major new exciting games, and you didn't get all these games on the Amiga. We got Zool as an answer to Sonic, which if you played Zool and played Sonic, you think that's your answer to Sonic. No, thank you. But we get interesting titles. We get Alien Breed, we get Chaos Engine, which ends up on the consoles anyway. Super Frog, which didn't end up on the consoles, but it's a bit of a slippery platformer, but pretty good. We get Lemmings, which ends up on the consoles as well. Kickoff 2 ends up as Super Kickoff on the consoles. It's nowhere near as good. Sensible Soccer, exactly the same as well. So there's a lot of crossover, but I'm getting exposed to all sorts of different stuff here. So my Amiga is still going strong. Then in 1994, 1994, so I finished school, I've done my A-levels, and I'm now off to what should be university, but I'm off to a university course run at a satellite college. I'm not going to go into details as to how that ended up as it did. And I'm going to make new friends. I'm going to completely different and making completely new friends. And I think it was probably the end of 94, possibly into 95. One of the guys on my course gets I think it's either a CDI or a 3DO, which you've never seen before, right? It's like, I've not seen one of these, played on one of these since then. This is like how far it goes back. And he's got FIFA, and of course FIFA's in 3D. So, you're used to playing FIFA a bit isometric, but he gets the 3D version of FIFA. I might be getting my dates a bit mixed up here, Rob, so just bear with me because I'm a bit... Right. So he's got Need for Speed, which is it's an all right racing game. But he's got a Mega Drive. So I sort of say to him, I said, "Oh, you're not selling that, are you?" And he said, "Well, yes, I can either get some money in for some games." He said, "Well, you want to buy it off me?" I was like, "Well, yeah, what do you want for it?" And I checked out what's in there. I've got no idea. It's just like a box full of games or whatever it is, and a Mega Drive. He said, "Oh, 50 quid. So get on the phone to me, Mum, need 50 quid. Why? Yes, why? Why do you want 50 quid, Russell? Oh, well, this guy, Adrian, saying this Mega Drive at school, uni, says he wants 50 quid for it. Well, you've got an Amiga. I know, yeah, but the Amiga's at home. I'm living away from home. I've got nothing else to keep myself occupied in the evenings. Oh, very well, then I'll send you some money. So my next console I end up with is the Mega Drive Mark 1. And I'm pleased to say it was the Mark 1 as well. It wasn't the bloody Mega Drive Mark 2 that came out.
Oh, well, I'm in your camp, mate. I much prefer the look of the Mark 1 model. No, you're very passionate about that.
I am indeed. I am. Yeah, don't get me started on saying the Master System, probably the original Master System, not Master System 2. I don't want to see that horrible monstrosity. But yes, I ended up with a Mega Drive. And again, one thought in the back of my mind is the thought, oh great, I've got a Mega Drive now. And the other thought is like, Jim's got a Mega Drive, I can borrow games off Jim now. So he does lend me a few games. He lends me his Japanese game converters when I'm playing Marvel Land, and lends me Streets of Rage and all these different games. But I didn't really check to see what games were in this particular box that this guy uni sold me. But you know, Sonic's in there, Sonic 2's in there, FIFA, Captain America and the Avengers, which nearly made the list, even though it's a shocking conversion from the arcade game. Play that one out the all the time. I'm trying to remember Madden 94, which again I played. Again, a lot of people go, "Oh, bloody sports games," but yeah, I love American football. So Madden 94 was an absolute godsend to buy that cheap at Walls. I think it was in the town centre. I think I paid it was either $9.99 or $40.99 for it. Just played that all the time. I cannot remember all the games I had. I had quite a few, and it was just great to have it just there. And finally playing on a console of my own and not having people around to kick the crap out of me on Street Fighter 2 all the time, or, you know, sit there and watch people play games and then get the controller for about 10 seconds, completely fail at it, and then give it them back. So that was nice because you do, you know, it's nice to be part of this thing, people invite you around to play games, but if you're rubbish at them or you're not very good at them or you don't get a chance to play them properly, you can't really compete with it. So for me to have my own Mega Drive was just great, and it stayed with me at uni. I took it back home again, and then hooked it up in the front room with a little portable telly and played that throughout the summer, and then took it back again, and kept hold of it. It was just great, system.
You still have your original Mega Drive then? Does that still exist?
No. The original Mega Drive. You know what happened to the original Mega Drive. We'll get to that a bit later.
It does.
Yeah, well, we'll tell them a bit later. No, I said that I don't, but I do have a Mark 1. And I was it was one of the first ones I picked up when I started recollecting again in 2009. It was very important to get that first one back in again because it does mean a lot to me. I do love it. I mean, the original look to it, it's got the stereo headphones on the front of it, that great big disc thing in the middle, which just looks completely unlike anything else you'd seen at the time. It's just a great system. And the fact, having started with cartridge systems, to go back then to move to playing cartridge systems again, chunk, turn on, you're off and running, isn't you? So
it's interesting. Like of all the consoles I had back in the day, apart from my Game Gear, my Mega Drive Mark 1 I still have. So it's just a beast of a system, isn't it? It's just awesome.
That's
absolutely awesome. I mean, the library for it. It's obviously massive. It's got so many great games on it. It's going to be hard for anybody who loves a Mega Drive not to take a game with them from that library. And obviously, you've chosen one.
I have.
And all I'm going to say is it's not Streets of Rage 2, which I'm surprised in this series that you've done hasn't been picked a hell of a lot more.
Yeah,
but
that's very true.
You've pumped for?
Yeah, I went for Golden Axe 2. Which
yeah, why over the first one?
Well,
they go back to playing Golden Axe. They instantly go back to the first one. But when a lot of people go back to playing a Streets of Rage game, they go to the second one. And I don't know why that. I don't know why that is because I'm with you. I'm going to let you talk about Golden Axe 2, but I think I'm with you on this one. So explain to me why 2 over 1.
Well, 2 over 1. I mean, I had one when it came out on the Amiga. And I very much enjoyed it. And my mate Andy would come round and we play 2-player on it. So that's fine. I play it on my own as well. I'll play through it without any problems. But when I bought the Mega Drive, Golden Axe 2 was in, and I thought, I've never even heard of Golden Axe 2. Didn't know there was a second game for it. Was it called Revenge of Death Adder or something? Or something
like that, yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, oh, great Golden Axe. So I thought, I'll put that in. And I don't know what it was, but against one of those games I could sit through and play through and thoroughly enjoy myself and get all the way to the end most times and complete it most times and be very happy about it. And it was just one of those games. It was probably the one that connected most with me off that system. I don't know why. There's no magical reason here behind it. It's just one of those games that you end up, if you buy a bundle of games, Rob, and you've probably done this yourself, and you're going through them, and there are games in there that you recognise immediately, oh yeah, I'm going to play. I bought it for that, and then you find, oh, what's this one? I don't know. I've not heard a lot about this one, and then you end up playing that one more than the other ones that you wanted in the first place. That's probably happened to us all. And I think probably that one with Madden 94, FIFA 95, and possibly Captain America: The Avengers were the 4 games I played the most on my Mega Drive. But Golden Axe 2 is probably just ahead of everything else. And I just thought it was a really, really solidly good game. I'm not sure how well regarded it is. I don't know whether it's meant to be a not very good game. I don't know. Was it a direct to Mega Drive sequel? Or was there an arcade original? I don't really know. Do you know?
There is a Golden Axe arcade game. I do know that, but I can't for the life of me think of which one would be tied into it.
I know the first one obviously was an arcade game which got converted, but I'm not sure whether Golden Axe 2 was something they made directly for the Mega Drive to sell to home systems, as opposed to putting it in the arcade first and then bringing it. I don't know.
Oh, right.
The only thing I remember about it is the skeletons. I hate the skeletons on Golden Axe. They're vicious bastards at the best of times. They just the way they've been drawn is like that, just like grinning face, and obviously when they're scything you down with their cutlasses, bloody hate that. Absolutely bloody hate it. And I think they've also got some lizard ones in this one as well, lizard men. And they're really awkward to get through as well. Some of those later levels are a little bit brutal. And I'm sorry to say, it's a game I've gone back and played on the Mega Drive collection on the PlayStation 3, and absolutely crap at it now. Just absolutely rotten. See, how did I finish this back in the day? How did I manage to complete this game on all the time? And now I'm sitting there, I can't even get to the bloody skeletons.
It's repetition, isn't it?
It is.
Over and over again. Obviously, you just get that a little bit further because you got so used to what's before it, and eventually you kind of master it in the end. It's just a progression.
That's it. I mean, it was. I wanted to pick. I've gone through my list as we'll go through, and I want to try and pick, one game for a system which is very memorable, and particularly in those early days as well. Not so much recently, but more back then. And it's probably so. I mean, Captain America: Avengers. Okay, it's not a great conversion. It was a great coin op, but the home system versions were pretty rotten. The SNES version isn't very good either. The NES version is a completely different game altogether. I played that a few months ago. It's completely different game. But to me, because I'm a big Marvel fan then, not so much now, but massively back then, and it just appealed to me at the time, and I used to play that so often as well. And again, that wasn't overly difficult game to get through and complete. So these are, this is an easy game. That's Golden Axe was an easy game back then. I'd really struggle with it now, Golden Axe 2. But just got so many memories of just what do I play now? I'll put Golden Axe 2 in again. Off we go.
As a massive fan of the genre, I've got to say that to me, any side-scrolling and beat 'em up, if you get into it, has always got that. I'll have a blast of that, and I'll play through that again. Any of them. So I can understand if you've got a connection with the game, then I can easily understand why you want to go back to it and play it again. I that's why on me 360 I've got the arcade versions of the Turtles and the Simpsons before they delisted it, and I love it because those two for me are just two side scrollers I can always go back to. And even if I don't get all the way through it, even if I only want to play it for X amount of time, I can't finish the game. Still happy to play it for a chunk just because it's just so enjoyable. So I can understand what.
Yeah, I do understand that, and I think a lot of people would be exactly the same about it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's probably far, far better games on the Mega Drive than Golden Axe 2. But to me, it's that thing that will just bring back those warm, fuzzy memories on those cold desert island nights when I'm sitting there. What am I going to do now? Well, I'll put this in, and just play that, and that'd probably give me time to get good at it again. That'd be nice. Because my experiences recently, I was like, I don't want to play that game again. Why was I so bad at it? But as you get older,
5 lives in a while. Don't Golden Axe 2. Get you to make a video if I do it, couldn't I?
Well, we could try. Yeah, we could do something like that. But go. Sorry,
I haven't actually played it for ages. I'm struggling to remember it. And this is what going back to what I said earlier, where every time I think I'll have a game of Golden Axe, for some reason I put the first one on. So I'm struggling to remember the second one. But
I think Yeah, I think I'd struggle with the first one now because it's been years since I played it. The last time I played a version of the first one was on the god awful Sega Classics collection on the PlayStation 2, where they've they've done something to it. It isn't the same game, and it's not the game I remember. And I was like, God, this is terrible. So I might have to go back and play the original.
It's looked back on with a little bit of rose tinted glasses.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very
not the most polished, is it?
Yeah, it's a little bit clunky in places. It's a bit slow, a bit ponderous. Probably the best way to describe it. Has it survived the test of time particularly well? I don't know. I still think it's a classic game, but probably not as revered as much as it is. But it's one of those games that it sort of inspires me when I bought it on the Master System recently. Oh, finally found a copy of Gold, and that's great, So the excitement is still there.
He's crying out for a Streets of Rage 4-star remake.
It probably is.
It would fit it so well.
But after Golden Axe Beast Rider, I think they probably decided it wasn't the best way to go.
That been on the shelf for quite some time. That's a horrendous game.
Our good friend Sega Zombie can't give it away, so it's been on Swap Shop that many times.
I know, even I've got it on the on the wall there. So because it was cheap, it's for a reason. This one.
Yes, that's it. That's it.
So Mega Drive done.
Yes.
I didn't expect to see this. I got to be honest with you. When you gave me your list of console history, and it's not all about consoles; it's gaming, so that's fine. But after the Mega Drive, you've said PC. Now
yes.
With PCs, they can go anywhere in a timeline, can't they? Technically, because of when you get into it. Why after the Mega Drive and obviously before the next generation is the PC there? Is honestly, I've got it's got me mind worrying.
Okay, yeah. Why there? Okay, well, it's a very good read. I mean, I think probably by this point the Amiga has been probably put in a box somewhere and left to one side. So the Mega Drive is sort of taking pride of place. But obviously at this time in my life, I'm at university. I do 2 years of a BTEC at the satellite course. And then in 1996, I then transfer to a university to complete the degree side of things. So I can do 2 years BTEC HND. And then I can go to a university and do 1 year, the final year of the university course, and top that up to a degree. Okay, it's a cheap way of doing it, really. My mate Jim went to university and he did a 4-year course, and the difference between his course and my course was he spent a year on work experience. I didn't. So I graduated a year before he did. I think graduated, scraped through, I think is probably the best way to describe it, in all honesty.
Me too, mate, don't worry.
I mean, the H&D was great because it was the easiest 2 years of my academic life, to be fair. And then the degree was probably the 9 months of absolute sheer hell. It really was, because I'm doing a business studies degree. Give you a bit of background on this because it's quite interesting. I don't talk about it very often. We've only done an hour and 7 minutes so far, so we're not doing too bad compared to some people. Compared to Pedro, anyway, we've squeezed 3 games in within the first hour, so we haven't done too bad. With the university course, the H&D was too obviously just so straightforward and very, very easy. As soon as you transfer to the degree course, it's completely different. You're doing essays, you're doing theories and things. It's so complicated. And I'm there on the first day, and the leader of the course is sort of giving this big talk about what we're going to be doing and all that. And because I want the only person who transferred from a different college to do this, with other people from all parts of the country. It was the first year I think they did it, or the second year they did it, where if you did a 2-year H&D, you can move on to a degree course and top yourself up. It's called a top-up course. But you were then on the course with people who'd done 2 years previously, or 3 years previously, so they know what they were doing. You hadn't really got a bloody clue. And of course, none of the people I was at college with went to this particular university, because I did my 2 years and I went to Sheffield to finish my year off. So there were some great aspects to it, but not the university side of it. And he's given his talk about it, and he obviously says, "Oh, well, you're going to do a 10,000 word dissertation." I'm like, "What the hell's a dissertation? 10,000? I'm not going to do 10,000 words. 1,000 words is bad enough when you should try and do a 500 word essay or a 1,000 word essay at A level. I'm going to do 10,000 words? Oh, you work on this throughout the year, right? Okay. And he got in his regional accents. So I'm trying to do an interpretation without offending half of this. He said, I don't care. He says, whether you do this, your business studies dissertation on Mongolian mole strangling. He said, as long as you relate it back to business, I don't really care. So I'm like, okay. And I'm none the wiser. I've got absolutely no idea about what I'm meant to be doing. And obviously what you need to do is you find something, relate it back to what you're doing, and write 10,000 words on it. So you got the entire duration of your semester now, because that's the other 3 semesters. Now, the course started in September. Because we were top-up students, we got 2. Most people had to get theirs in by, I think it was the end of April. Because we were top-up students, we got an extra 2 months, so we had to do it by the end of June. So obviously you can imagine how this is going to go, can't you? I'm desperately trying to think of a subject. I don't actually find a subject probably until about 6 weeks later that I'm happy with. In the meantime, my mentor, you're assigned a lecturer or professor. I don't know, professor or lecturer. I don't know what they call them now. Excuse me. And you're assigned something like that who's there to go through it and meet you on a regular basis and ask you how things are going with it and can they help and give you some advice. During the course of the 9 months I was there, my mentor changed 4 times, which didn't really help. And I had got absolutely no bloody clue what I was doing at all. I eventually picked the British film industry as my subject for relating to business studies. You have to apply all the stuff you learnt on the course to this. So I was picking the most basic theories and things to use with it. And of course, you're meant to read all the books. And of course, with this particular university, there was different colleges dotted around Sheffield, and all the books I wanted were 35 minutes in that direction. So I had to go and get all the books out there on one day and keep them for the entire year and not take them back until the very end. And I remember sitting there about 6 weeks before this had to be due in, with very little done so far. I'd obviously encountered a couple of ladies while I was at university, which was really distracting me. Well, they were distracting me. I don't know. I can't remember what it was. So much point I had to tell them to back off because I've got to get this done in 6 weeks. I can't keep seeing you every day. You've got to stop coming around. I've got to get this sorted out. And I eventually handed it in, and I was so, by that point, worn down by it. I thought, you know what? I don't care if it comes back with a, unclassified or fail on it. I don't know. It did get a pass, but barely. But of course, what this leads into is the fact that I need a computer. Yeah. Universities have computers, but they're 20 minutes in that direction, which is, and bear in mind when I was living in Sheffield, it was at the top of an incredibly big hill. It was classed as a hill, not like a steep climb. It was a hill. It's so much point that I'm going to illustrate to you now. It sort of was quite flat, and then there's a like slight incline as you go up the hill, and all of a sudden it went like that.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So by the time you spend 2 or 3 times a day walking up down that, with calves that size, it keeps you fit, but you couldn't do it too much. And I thought, I can't keep going up and down here each day to use the computers at university. So I said to my parents, "Look, I'm gonna need to get a PC or something. I need, or of course, back in those days, I don't think laptops were incredibly expensive. You got tablets or anything like that. So we made an inquiry with the student loan people. And because I hadn't applied for a loan before, and I was only there for 1 year, I was entitled to a minimum loan. So I took a student loan out, and other people on this program have done so before in the past, have taken student loans out and bought cars. I went and bought a PC, which I ended up with a PC.
And that's how we got to a PC after the Mega Drive then.
PC gaming, yeah. Although we will backtrack a little bit on this, but that's how I ended up with one anyway. But I had played games on PCs previously. This is going back to my time on my previous 2-year course, because where I was and what I was doing, I had to go to a college. Now, where I live, I was actually based at a college in Evesham, which is probably about an hour's drive from here, near enough. So Evesham's a college. There's no halls of residence or anything like that. So you either have to commute in each day, and bear in mind I didn't drive at the time, or they put you up with a family that lives close by. So for 2 years I was doing my H&D. I was living with a normal family mum and dad, two children, and me. I'm not sure if they still do things like that or not. I don't know, but that was it. And honestly, that they were an absolutely fantastic family. They really were. They're two young children, both at sort of primary school age. The dad worked in Oxford for, I'd like to say, Jaguar. I think he did, and his wife worked at the college as an accountant. So, and the college was like 5 minutes walk from their house, so it was great. So, and his dad was into football and stuff like that. So, if he was going down the pub to watch the football or whatever, he said, "Oh, knock on my bedroom door. I'm going down the pub, Russ. Do you fancy going down for a pint and watch the football?" "Yeah, I'll come down." And and they'd leave me to my own devices, but sometimes they say, "Oh, we're going shopping in Worcester. Do you want to come with us for the day?" I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." So we got on really well like that. I mean, me and the dad Stuart, we went to watch Coventry City. Because he was an Arsenal fan. This is going to resonate with you. He was an Arsenal fan. So when Arsenal were playing at Highfield Road, he said, "Oh, I'm going to Coventry. You fancy coming and watching the game?" I was like, "Yeah, great, fantastic." I think it was the day John Hartson made his debut for Arsenal, scored.
Oh, right.
So that was when it was
697.
Yeah, something like that. And we went to watch Evesham Town a few times because they were in a few divisions. But Cheltenham Town we used to go and watch quite a bit. So from my point of view, it was a great couple of years. But he had a PC because obviously you need it for homework and things like that. Working as a sort of computer graphics for a car manufacturer, and that's how I got into some PC gaming as well. So it falls quite nicely with my next choice, really.
And I think, well, what is that next choice? We've got to
the
go
next choice. I am jumping about a bit, so I thought we'd probably jump on the university story. But my next game of choice is Formula One Grand Prix on the PC.
See, now I hear that, and I think simulation. I'm just going to throw that in there before you go into the game. I have no idea what the game's like. I hear PC and Formula One, and I think simulation.
Yes, there's a little bit of simulation about it, but it's not a pure simulation because you can just ignore that and play it as a racing game. Oh. Now, I'd played this previously on the Amiga, probably maybe a year beforehand, before I went to do my H&D. And I remember just being amazed by the graphics on this. By this point, I've upgraded my 500 to a 1 meg. So when I had my 500 originally, it only came with half a meg of memory. So you could buy an extra 512k and slot it in underneath, about 20 quid, I think it was back then. But you needed a 1 meg to run the really sort of high spec end games on the 500. So we'd done that. I was playing Formula One on that. It's great, and you got a full Formula One season. You got all the tracks. It was you're aware of a game called Stunt Car Racer, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah,
it was by the guy who did that, Jeff Crammond. Okay, so if people don't know what Stunt Car Racer, it's basically sort of stock car racing on a roller coaster. If you imagine some really, really weird and wacky tracks like that, and you drive a high-powered vehicle around it. And he did the Formula One game. In fact, I think he did about 4 different ones after this. And they all got incredibly well-reviewed and highly regarded. He was an absolute master of his craft in creating a perfect racing game. And so I play it on the Amiga, and it's great, all proper tracks. You can, if you really wanted to, get all simulatory and start adjusting the suspension and the wind resistance and the tyres and all that cobblers, which really most people like me can't be bothered with.
It's just fun, isn't it?
It's look, if you want to do that, go and buy a real car and drive that and play around with it doing that way. You know me, Rob, I'm much happier when I'm whizzing around corners at 90 miles an hour, my foot down. I don't really care about what happens.
I'm with you.
Yeah. I don't care if I fly off.
But yeah.
Yeah, I don't care if I fly off. I don't care if I cause multiple pile-ups and bash through everybody. That's what I'm going to do. You can leave the damage on. You can turn the damage off. And you can
use the car in front, eh?
Exactly. But more important as well, you can change all the names of the drivers. So I put all my mates in when I was at school. So an entire Formula One season with all my best mates in driving for different teams. So it just has a bit of fun to it. You're driving around and said, Andy Taylor crashed on lap 2. Brilliant. Never liked him anyway.
You laughed because it was your mate.
Yeah, I laughed at him, mate. Yeah, he was my best mate at one point. He lives in Australia now. I've not seen him for quite a few years. I hope he's all right anyway, if he's listening. But I don't think he is. But if he's about, I hope he does. But you just do things like that. But because it was just a 4-in-1 season, and the fact it was up until that point, there hadn't really been many great Formula One games. I think things like Super Monaco Grand Prix wasn't really a Grand Prix game. It was just based around one track. Continental Circus, which was probably Formula One-esque, but again, it was not that sort of game. And there was just a lot of depth to it. But the fact it was just so well done that when I moved in with his family for 2 years, he got 2 games on the PC. Doom was one of them. It's the only time I've ever played Doom at all, ever, but on the PC, and it was great. Honestly, if I wasn't so torn in the Formula One Grand Prix, I might have put Doom on my list. I don't know, it was quite close. And he introduced me to playing that. I was like, wow, I've heard about this game. This is like really, really good. And the other one he got in there was Formula One Grand Prix, and I thought, well, he's brilliant, he's got this. And he said, oh yeah, we're very used to it. I'm not here, he said, I don't need the computer, just jump on and use it, Because I would use that computer for some of my college work. But a lot of time I just, go home early from college, like no one else around, I'll put Formula One Grand Prix on for a bit and just sit there playing it. And I just love that game. It's just so realistic, so well done. Probably it's a few years before the Formula One PlayStation games, which were really good as well. I know they were obviously done slightly more arcadey than this particular one. Yeah, you can be a real simulation nut if you want to on this one, but you have the facility just to drive around like a lunatic like I do and just knock everybody off the track and win the races. It's great fun. Great fun. It really is an absolute classic game.
It's interesting you mentioned the PlayStation 1, because as soon as I hear Formula One games and playing them at home, that's where my mind does actually. I feel a bit guilty about saying it, to be honest with you, because I did play them earlier. I mean, I had Super Monaco GP on the Game Gear as one of my very first games, and unfortunately about that was pretty much about memorising where the corners were, because you were driving so fast. Just memorise where they were and steer at the appropriate time is how I got through that. But no, yeah, the PlayStation 1 is totally what I think of when I think about the Formula 1 games, because that first Formula 1 game on the PS1, I just remember it just blew me away. I just thought, this is amazing. This is obviously it has gone on, developed on, but how do you get more realistic than this was what it was like when you first got hold of that Formula 1 on the PlayStation 1. I mean, did you naturally go into those games on the PlayStation 1?
Yeah, I did. I mean, you mentioned Super Monaco Grand Prix. I mean, I had that on the Mega Drive, and that came with a full Formula 1 season. I used to, again, play the hell out of that. That was, again, very, very close to making my list because of that Formula 1 season tacked onto it. And you're absolutely right. I mean, the racing, that was so quick. It was a case of memorising the corners. There were some belting tracks on that Grand Prix season. It really was. I used to play it so often. And yes, you're absolutely right. The progression then from the Monaco Grand Prix to Formula 1 Grand Prix, then onto the play. I mean, when I saw the first PlayStation Formula 1 game, I was like, you got the commentary on there, you got these giant graphics. It's so fast. I mean, it was just completely different to anything you'd played before until that point. It's like, this is brilliant. We've been crying out for a game like that for years.
Absolutely.
You either got something which was not quite what it should have been. Like I said, Continental Circus was pretty good, but it just wasn't what you wanted. It was more like Super Monaco Grand Prix, time attack. Finishing a certain place to go through to the next level. You're looking at some of the full Formula 1 season with proper Grand Prix cars in there. The fact you got the Murray Walker's commentary on that PlayStation game, it just elevates it to another completely different level. Nothing. We were used to getting commentary in games by that point on FIFA, but to have it on a motor racing game and the voice of motor racing, God bless his soul. Yeah. Just to have that.
Hill versus Schumacher.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I literally was the first thing I did was pick Damon Hill. I was right, I'm going to beat Schumacher. It's literally what I wanted to do, because obviously, Formula 1 was at its peak back then, wasn't it? It was massively popular around about that time period.
That's it.
It might be controversial by saying it was at its peak then.
I don't know. I mean, it's.
I can't watch it nowadays. I've got to be honest with you.
I've not watched it for years.
Maybe
I've not watched it for years,
and it's not something I'm into now. I don't know, but back then it was essential viewing. Mum and Dad sit around, Formula 1's on, and we used to sit down and watch it. Yeah,
Sunday lunchtime was exactly the same. Sunday dinner on the lap, and the Grand Prix was on BBC Two, and you'd sit down and watch it. And Sunday grandstand, that was it. And then obviously moved to ITV afterwards. But again, that Formula 1 game on the PlayStation 1, the graphics were the same graphics they use on the telly. So,
yes,
the official graphics.
Yeah,
and it just adds a little bit of credence to it, a bit of quality to it, a bit of like you're actually watching a. If you look at the game now, it's a little bit on the blocky side. Obviously, games of that era don't sometimes survive very well, but the speed is still there. It's still a good racing game. Now, if you play it, I played it a couple of years back. It's still really, really good.
I think it adds the charm.
Yeah,
Something about it adds a bit of charm to it. It's too polished now. I don't know why. Maybe I don't get it. It's just getting old, and that's the time period that I love.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah. But I mean, that introduced me to PC games. I never really played it, and then when I got the PC, then we had to jump forward a couple of years back to where we were before we got on the Formula 1 Grand Prix. I had to buy a PC for university. I could keep going to university, but I just couldn't do it. So we bought an Acer Aspire, which was I can't remember. It was like a metallic green colour. It was the most obscure colour you could think of for a PC. It wasn't the typical sort of cream and grey colours you got. It was a bit different, and it got like this design on the monitor and on the casing as well, like little holes in it that would get big as like air holes. It looked like it got woodworm. It was really weird, but it was what I needed to do my work on. Because like I say, when we worked a 3.5-inch floppy, had a floppy disk that had a CD drive built into it as well. So it's quite high spec. I mean, we didn't get a lot of change out of that 1,200 quid. I know that for sure. I think it was a Pentium 1.133 or a 166 at the time. But of course, I'd been playing Championship Manager for years on the Amiga, and then the system, the Amiga games finished, and then they moved to the PC. So I remember buying a copy, and you could do this back then. It's really strange to say that, but they would released 4 different Championship Manager versions of international leagues, but as standalone budget releases. So there was Championship Manager Italy, Germany, Spain, and France, I think it was. And all that would have on there was just the
box.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah,
that's the background.
Yeah.
Sorry,
that's it. That's it.
It just popped into my head. Go on. Sorry.
And it was just the one. You just play the German league or the French league, and that was it. And because they were cheap, they were quite cheap to buy. I said budget range. So I bought. I think it was for some reason the German. I don't know why I bought the German. I got no interest in the Bundesliga whatsoever. It was just the one I think game Virgin Megastore had in Sheffield at the time. And I spent a hell of a lot of time playing that on the PC. A hell of a lot of time. Probably more time. I'm dividing my time between playing Championship Manager and seeing these girls at university, and obviously my dissertation's not getting done. So, thanks to the combination of the two of them, I don't think it would have made much difference. But I might have done slightly better anyway. And that's where my affiliation with PC carries on, because after that I then start getting the Championship Manager versions on the PC, because obviously massive game part of my gaming history. I'm playing all the so we take the PC home, it gets set up in the kitchen, we connect it to the internet, because I've discovered the internet at university as well, and that's end of 1996 and all that business. I wasn't really interested, and I'll see what it's all about, and I was completely hooked on it. So that was it. And the PC I had at the time, I did have other games for it. I had Star Wars Rebel Assault, which was really good because you got proper like music from the films in it. And
is that what had FMV in it, or is that?
Yes, it does. It's not very good. It's the voices aren't Darth Vader's voice is not Darth Vader. It's definitely not James Earl Jones. That is for sure. But you got the original music and music in the films, and then you got the sort of attacking the Death Star or the Star Destroyers at the start. It's all really, really good. I had PJ Tour Golf again, because I think that was quite cheap to pick up. But I like my golf games. What else happened? I didn't have many games for it, I've got to be honest. Because I'm still playing on my Mega Drive at the time. But every time a new version of Championship Manager came out, that was it. He was there and got, and I still got a couple of games from back then. I still got 97, 98. So I've got 2 copies of Championship Manager 97, 98. Championship Manager 2, I think, as well, is knocking around somewhere. So I've still got some games from that era, but I didn't get too much of the PC gaming. It was mainly for that, really.
See, I know you like your Championship Manager, and I know you like your management games. So when
Yes.
you sort of showed me your list, and
Yes.
I didn't see it on there, and I saw a different game on there for the PC. It did kind of surprise me a little bit.
Well, it surprised me a little bit as well, but as much as I love them, the reasoning behind my choices is more, let's say it's more nostalgia, but I wanted to get a better mix of it. I think if I took Championship Manager, I wouldn't play anything else. Which is, I like to have a bit of variety, but even after a certain period of time, you do get a little bit fed up with them. And you can go back to the reason I play 2000 Football Manager 2005 and Championship Manager 93, 94, probably my favourite ones of the lot. But there's only so much you can do with them to a certain point, and you do find if you do get particularly good at it like I do, then it's just a constant case of continually winning all the time, which is fine. But you want a bit of a challenge, and you can start with a lower team. I do that anyway. I always start with the lower teams. I don't start with the high teams. I start with the lower teams and build them up and work my way through the ranks that way. So I would like to have taken a game from that series, but I gave this one a bit of thought. So that's why they're not on here.
It's fair reasoning, because I kind of went through the same experience. I got really hooked on LMA Manager 2001 on the PlayStation 1, of all things, and I got hooked on that, and I'd literally play something stupid like 30, 35 years. All the players' real names had gone and been replaced by make-do names, and it literally just became a case of remembering to sell them at the right age, buy someone in at the right age, and you're training so good that they will be superstars, and just keep clicking next match once you've done that. So no, I can get behind your reasonings for it. Absolutely.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad you agree.
We'll agree on a lot. It's not like our wrestling chats, is it?
No, it's not. No.
But, since I brought up the PlayStation 1,
yes.
Shall we move on to there, because that's what I've got down next.
Well, yes.
I know I'm not going to say what your choice is now, but when we get there, I love your choice.
I knew you would do.
I do.
I know you would do.
But I also know the story behind the PlayStation 1 and how you got it, as we touched on earlier. You have to tell it. So why the PlayStation 1?
Well, I think what you're thinking is not the reason why I got the PlayStation 1, but what I got for the PlayStation 1, I think that's what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
I think that's what, yeah. Well, we're at the right timeline anyway, and when I get to my game, I'll explain why it was a very, very close choice between one and another, so it's not quite a clear-cut decision as you might think. But, so we're probably talking now 1997. I've done my university. Obviously, I'm now out of work, finished university, what do I do now, sort of thing. Wait for my results to come through. So I spent pretty much the summer of 97 trying to find a job, and basically spending my entire days searching through the job papers, and then walking down to Hell Zone, which is about a 15-20 minute walk from my house, going down to the swimming pool each day, spending probably an hour doing a bit, to use a better phrase, doing a few lengths down the pool. Obviously times were tight then, money was tight then, you know what I mean? You could try to generate some money somehow. And doing that really for about 2 months, and it was great because I was probably the fittest peak of my entire life then. It was good times, and it was a good summer that year, and I had a lot of fun. Then I eventually got a job at the end of August that year, and a friend of mine gets a PlayStation 1 not long afterwards. He says, Andy again, who lives in Australia, he says, come round, you got to see this, what PlayStation 1. I was like, oh, right, okay, I've heard about these. So he go around and he said, we play actual soccer, which is all right. It's not aged particularly well, but it was okay compared to Adidas Power Football, which I know you like.
I have a guilty pleasure for that game because it was literally when I got mine, I had 4 packing titles, and that was one of them.
Yeah,
the 97 one, not the first one of the 2, but yeah. But actual soccer had 3 games, so.
It did. You're right.
Popularity.
I'm not sure why the Desperate Power Football did, because I thought it was a rotten football game. Because me and Andy for years had gone back playing. We started playing Kick-Off 2 against each other, and then it was sensible soccer, and we just go on these ridiculous winning streaks against each other, and we'd fall out over. You coming out to play Kick-Off 2? No, I ain't coming out tonight. because because I'm on like a 35 game losing streak. I'm not playing you at kickoff 2 tonight. I can't be bothered. I'll ring you later in the week. And then you come round, you play him, and you beat him. It's like, oh yeah, come around tomorrow night. No, I ain't coming around. It's just like one-upmanship on that. And for years, we on the Commodore 64 as well. Mike Reed's pop quiz very nearly made his list for nostalgic reasons. Yes, for nostalgic reasons.
Fair enough.
I'll talk about that. Maybe talk about that a little bit then about some of the games that didn't make that list, but yeah, it's very, very close just for nostalgia. But because I'm going to be on Desert Island, I need something to keep the old brain matter ticking over, so that would be an ideal choice for it. Anyway, I'm on my own tangent now. My own bloody Desert Island games. So he said, I know Destruction Derby, which is I know some people like Destruction Derby. I thought it was a bit of a mess, to be honest with you, but I'm quite impressed by it. And of course, by this point in time, I'm now earning money, so I actually have money to spend. And I said before, in the first sort of 3 months or so working, I bought a brand new portable telly, brand new 3D CD changer, surround sound stereo. Which, believe it or not, I was actually, my bedroom was actually where I am now in the gaming pantry, because in our house I had the big bedroom for years until I moved out, and then my sister moved in and kicked me out, and I ended up living in the box room. So if you can imagine that in here, 3D CD change with a portable telly in here, mate, there's not a lot much more room you can do anything with.
That brings back memories. 3D CD changer. Everybody had one of those back in the day when they were awesome, weren't they?
Oh, they were.
Button, and it'll make them really well. It'd wake up the neighbours, wouldn't it? Turn him round.
Yeah. That's right.
Amazing. You didn't have to take the CD out and put another one in. It was quite simple.
And it had got this great graphic equalizer LED display on the front, which would move up and down, and different settings for it. It was a sharp one. It was brilliant. We had it for years until it got stolen. It was brilliant. We had 2 speakers and a satellite speaker as well. It was just great. I think when me and Claire moved in together, we actually hooked that up to the television, so we'd have surround sound TV. Sound quantity, brilliant, absolutely superb bit of kit that was. Gutted when that disappeared. And then I bought a PlayStation 1, which is where I get to then. So I bought that from Comet. Everybody remembers Comet.
That's actually where my PlayStation 1 come from as well.
Do you know, mate, a lot of people say that. We're not the first people to say that. So a lot of people have mentioned it previously, whether it's on here or in other conversations. And I think I paid $179 for mine, but it only came with Alien Trilogy. I only got one game. It's either $169 on its own or $179 with a game, and you had a choice between 3, and I can't remember what the other 2 were. So I picked Alien Trilogy. I thought, well, I'd heard that was going to be quite good, and it's a brilliant game. Really is good fun. Good fun. Quite scary as well. Well, yeah, I'd still scare the shit out of me now, but that's why I don't play it. But it was just a great little system, and all of a sudden the Mega Drive now stops getting played, so the Mega Drive gets put away, and I'm now focused on playing either Championship Manager or PlayStation 1, and I just start adding games to it. I'm trying to remember the games I took. Tokka. I remember getting Tokka Touring Cars and the DualShock pad for the first time, and that was...
That's why there's so many copies out there. You can't go into a gaming shop without having about 10 copies of it sitting on the shelf. It was just everywhere, wasn't it?
But playing it with a DualShock and just going around, go off the track onto the rumble strips around the outside the tracks, and getting that feedback, that vibration on the control. It's like, oh my goodness me, like nothing else you experienced before. I know the rumble pack had been around for the N64 probably a little bit before that, but this was just a completely different way of playing games. Analog sticks as well, Rob. Analog sticks. First time ever. It's like, 2 of them on the controller. Like, the N64 have got one, fair enough, but he's got 2. So, I think it was Ape Escape when that came out. You could only play it with an analog controller. You couldn't play it with the standard D-pad. You had to use the 2 control sticks on it. And then it just so many games. Metal Gear Solid, Point Blank, Time Crisis. Oh god, I've tried to do so many different games. Lots of football games, lots of sports games, Madden games, even games like Danger Girl, which probably nobody will remember. Budget titles like that. That was really quite a good game. Really enjoyed that. The wrestling games, Warzone, Rory's War, SmackDown.
The two Smackdowns.
Yeah,
Everyone
not
goes
so.
about wrestling games on N64 being the best, and they probably are. They might be, but for me, my personal favourites are those SmackDown games. I
Yeah,
absolutely loved them. It's the first time I really enjoyed playing a wrestling game on a home console. I had Warzone, but I found it quite clunky. But those two, I found them very arcadey, very sim. You grab the guy, you press one of the directional pads, you do one of the moves. When you're ready, bar's filled up, says SmackDown, you're in the right place, hit the button, do the move. It was simple and so fun, and the career mode as well.
yeah, but I agree with your point about the Warzone, Rory's War games. That they haven't aged particularly well, and they weren't great. They were. Don't get me wrong, they were better than what we've probably seen previously, but they weren't great. But the SmackDown games were just complete different level. WCW versus the World was quite an interesting wrestling game as well. Not many people remember that one, but I quite enjoyed that. Not so much Nitro because that was a real pile of shit.
Goldberg on the front, was it?
Hogan was on the front of it. I think. Goldberg was WCW Mayhem, which actually isn't a bad game. Yeah. I had all those. I had every single one of them. I'm just trying to have a quick nose of my PlayStation 1 list of games I've got now. Because I know I bought quite a few. Apocalypse with Bruce Willis, that was one I'm just beginning to think of. I had that for Christmas the one year. And it's a really, really good little shooter. I mean, okay, it's got the Bruce Willis thing tied into it. And I know I think for the fact that historically he agreed to use his license and voice using the game and he fell out with the developers or something. So I'm not entirely sure what happened there. But that was just a great game because Bruce Willis at the time, late 90s, was a massive action hero star. So to have him in a game and actually properly licensed as well was something completely different. I'm just trying to think what other games I have for that.
It's funny you mentioned Bruce Willis, and obviously that just makes Die Hard pop into your head, and then you got Die Hard Trilogy as well, which was amazing.
Well, this was like a set in the future in space or something, and he's a prisoner trying to escape from a prison. High security prison. What I've got here, so Apocalypse was mentioned. The Bugs Bunny and Taz games, they were quite good as well. A lot platform puzzle games, Sheepdog and Wolf, which
yes,
I had that, and it's quite an expensive game to get that now. That was a good puzzle game. A game called Sheep as well, which is sheep herding game. Futuristic sheep herding, which it's like really, really good. Chase Express, which I talk to people about all the time and say, it's not the greatest game in the world, but it's you've ever seen Under Siege 2, it's sort of like that. But
yeah, went platinum.
Maybe when we get the Colin McRae racing games, Crash Bandicoot, I had that. So the FIFA games were good. The Formula 1 games we've talked about before, and Grand Theft Auto. Remember how I got the first one when that came out, read all about it. Medal of Honor. Medal of Honor, my favourite first-person shooting series. Absolutely brilliant, that first game on the PlayStation 1. The way that started with the history of how we got to World War II, it just, and the actual gameplay itself, the whole setting was brilliant. Where are we now? Tomb Raider, V-Rally racing games, really, really good.
I've also preferred the V-Rallies over the Colin McRae's. I think we've had this conversation before, haven't we? But
That's right. I think there was another racing game series as well, which came out on PlayStation 1, not V-Rally. I know it was called Top Gear. But there's something else which was really, really good. I remember playing the hell out of that. Speed Freaks, which was like a Mario Kart clone. And I think Street Racer as well, which had been on the console before, also came out on the PlayStation. I had those, and they were really good fun to play. Just so many great games, readily available, not difficult to track down or anything like that. And you just can go into most shops and they'd be selling PlayStation 1 games, and all sorts of different prices, and as usual, all sorts of different quality to go with them as well. But what a system! What a fantastic system that was.
It's up there with the greatest of all time, isn't it? To be honest with you, and,
iconic.
You just mentioned, just like every time you talk about PlayStation 1, it had such a library that every now and again also random games just pop into your head as well. I think when you were talking about those racing games, Roll Cage popped into my head.
I never played Roll Cage. Never played that one.
It's had a sort of a modern day spiritual successor in Grip as well, which is a fantastic game as well.
Yeah.
But just again, I say you mentioned Crash Bandicoot, but you didn't sort of specify like Crash Team Racing as well.
Yeah, I must admit,
form the age-old argument, doesn't it? Which is better, CTR or Mario Kart?
Well,
everyone has a preference.
My story about that, the reason I didn't mention because I haven't got a copy of it now. I've got, I think I've got it on the PlayStation 2 or Nitro Kart, the PlayStation 2. When Crash Team Racing was first out, I made sure I got a copy of it, and had it for Christmas the one year. And then my mate who lives over the back of my house, used to live at the back of my house. He said, it was Christmas Day night. He said, "What are you doing Christmas Day night?" I said, "Oh, probably sit there and watch the telly with the folks." And he said, "Oh, come round." He says, "Mum and Dad are going round some friends' house." He said, "Come round, we'll play some cards and we'll drink some beer and have some food." I was like, "Okay, great." So me and Andy Parr ran to his house, and we're playing. I thought I'd take the PlayStation round. I thought, hang on a second. For years, Neil has tormented me on Mario Kart. I'm going to get my bloody revenge now. I'm going to take Crash Team Racing round and show him what it's like. So I take the PlayStation 1 round with a copy of that and get my revenge, beat him consistently. And I said, "So come on." So at the end of it, I said, what do you reckon then? Is this game as good as Mario Kart? He goes, "Well, it's pretty good," he says. "It's pretty good."
Did you learn the shortcuts before you went round? And then not tell them where they are?
No, I should have done that really, but I only had it in the afternoon. Obviously, the morning it was Christmas Day, wasn't it? So I only had it for a few hours. So we were, but it was also great because I not only eat his food, drank his beer, and took 20 quid off him playing cards. So
that's
cracking that was.
Successful night, that is.
Yeah, bear in mind that I've never played cards before or since. So
100% record then.
Yeah, I was very happy with that, and thrashed him at Mario Kart as well. It's best Christmas ever, that.
Nice one. So I'm on the PlayStation 1. I'm just going to talk about this game because I love it as much as you do. You touched on sports games earlier.
Yes.
And your choice for the PlayStation 1, which is one of your games that you're going to take with you, which I know why you've taken it with you.
Yes. Well, it was a very, very close choice between this and its sequel. So the game I've picked, which is the fifth one on my list? No, number 5. Number 5 is International Superstar Soccer Pro 98. For those of you,
sorry, let me just interrupt there. For me, no.
Yes.
It's not even for me. No. Why did you nearly pick the sequel?
Well, I nearly picked the sequel because of the Master League. And right, okay. I felt if you're going to be, not only you're stuck in a design, but the challenge involved in that. For those of you who don't know, the Master League on Pro Evolution Soccer is you start with a team of very, very low capability players, and what you have to do is play better teams and get results against them, score goals, draw games, win games to accumulate points, or I suppose in this case it's sort of transfer money, and then you can upgrade your players by getting better players brought into it and gradually build a bigger team over time. And the great thing about this is all these players remain the same. They don't get any older. They're all there. So you could spend so long playing this game building up a masterful 11. I mean, I remember at some point, I had a team with Roberto Carlos, David Beckham, Thierry Henry. I had Didier Deschamps. I had what was that guy played for Chelsea at the back? Big defender, Desire, yeah, massive. All the big players in the world, and it was just so much fun. And then you start all over again, and you just do exactly the same thing and try and do it with different players. So I nearly picked it for that, but the reason I chose ISS Pro 98 was because it was the first time. I mean, I played ISS before. I had played ISS Deluxe on the Super Nintendo before, and they were okay. They didn't change much. At the time I was playing FIFA, so they didn't really convince me at the time that this was better than FIFA. But then I played this one, and this was the one that turned me away from FIFA. And apart from games that I've picked up or I've got in, like when I got my PlayStation 4, I got FIFA 18 with it, which I think I've played about 3 times. I've not played a FIFA game since. This was the game that convinced me that ISS was the right way to do it. Plus also the fact as well, you could change all the players' names to put your mates in as well. Now, at this time in my life, 97, 98, we were playing football over the road on the park, 10, 12 of us on a Sunday. Not playing professionally, just, kick about amongst the lads. And we did this for a few years. So football's a big part of my life here. So, I'm putting all these guys' names into the PlayStation 1 and building the team around that and playing with them. So, in a way, it's quite significant that I could do that and recreate that and keep all those memories alive by doing it. But there was one moment in this game which made me feel that this was so much different to anything else I played before. I was playing as England, and I'd hit a long ball over. I do a lot of passing movements and through balls. I hit a long ball over the top, and I think it was a Michael Owen player who was running after it. He was quite quick, and all of a sudden, as he's running towards the ball, he's on his own. The goalkeeper has come about 20 yards out of his goal, so the ball hits the ground and bounces, and then I press the action button, and Michael Owen does this diving header. So he dives toward the ball, heads the ball over the goalkeeper who's come out, who tries to save it, and obviously the ball just bounces and goes into the net. I thought, I've never been able to do that in a football game ever. But naturally,
I could ever truly pull off a lob as well, lob the keeper, get it right.
But naturally, in a game like that, you would be able to do something like that. You see the goalkeeper come in, you try and knock it over him or round him or something like that. Because he was still quite a distance away from you, so there was no danger of collision. You could try and do something a bit crazy. I thought, I've never been able to do that before.
It was also the first game for me where I could take it around the keeper as well. I always felt like football games were unbalanced and the keeper would always win a one-on-one. You could never take it round it. It's the first time that I could do it. If you got the timing right, you could take it round him and end up just tapping it into an empty net.
I play some great football games. I play some terrible football games. I really have. I play games where the ball sticks to your feet and it's impossible to do anything. Go back. Some of those 8-bit games are completely unplayable now. Some of those 16-bit games even are still quite unplayable as well. Go back and play Kickoff 2. Go back and play Sensible Soccer. Sensible Soccer, okay, sometimes it sticks a foot, but not so. Kickoff 2, probably some people don't like that because it just moves too quickly. The ball just bounces around on its own. It does take a little bit of craft to get used to it. I got used to it, and it's one of my favourite games. It's possibly my favourite football game of all time. But this one I'm taking for that particular reason. I put my mates in it and recreate those moments over the park and the fun we had with it. But it just felt more real. You could do the through ball, Rob, just by pressing the triangle button. Just completely foxes defences, and you can intricate little passing movements like that. The little pass, you just like pressing the pass button, pass. You're not going to do long passing or banging it down the wing for someone to run onto. You can just do. I still method I use today: pass. Work your way through, and then back a through ball, and that's it.
See, this for me is like you as well. This was the game that switched me over because for me, 98 was just a great year for football games, I think, because the best ever FIFA for me was FIFA 98 Road to World Cup on the PlayStation 1. I absolutely loved it. Blur Song 2 intro, that got you pumped before you'd even press start, you know what I mean? I absolutely loved it. And it was brilliant. I enjoyed playing it and all that. And then FIFA 99 came along and I didn't actually buy it. I played around the mates and I was just like, it's lost something. This isn't for me. And then I played, another mate said, well, I've got RSS Pro 98. Give this about. He was telling me about this goal he scored. I crossed it in and he hit this ball on a volley across the keeper and he goes, I watched the replay so many times. I love that goal so much. So I was like, all right then. And I played it and I was just like, this is brilliant. Yeah. Because I think you've touched on it. It's got that element of, things that you couldn't do before. So it's got that element of realism about it. But it still held that arcadeness about it, which drew me into a football game. You know what I mean? It was, and I did what you did, mate. I changed all the names as well. I had a team full of mates. But I don't know if you used to do it, but I would take a popular film, TV program, and change the team to have all of their names as well. So I'd have a team of gladiators, as in the TV show. You'd have Wolf in goal and you'd have Jet out front. You know what I mean? I did that. I messed about with it so much. I'd have a team full of mates, and then I'd have a team full of people that I knew. And you'd play them, and you'd beat them, obviously. But honestly, mate, this is it's an amazing game. It's the best football game of all time for me. I don't know if you want to put that badge on it, but I will for myself. I love it.
I would probably say it's in the top 3 football games I've ever played, and it's probably Is it number one? I don't. It's very, very close. Very, very. It's either number one or number two on my list. I don't know. I could go either way, possibly. If I could have a joint first, I probably would put it there. And I sit on the fence a little bit, but I do have an affinity to kick off too. But that's because I used to play that to pieces back in the day, literally pieces. But games like this were always more fun when you could change the names. That's why I have a lot of respect. I don't know, Sensible Soccer is not one of my favourite games, but that game when I got on the Amiga came preloaded with all these ridiculously stupid teams like EastEnders. So you'd have characters like that. And I must be honest with you, I was watching James at It's Much More play the Evercade version just this past week while we're recording this a few weeks ago, and I was disappointed to see. Obviously, I think it was the Mega Drive version they'd put on the Evercade, and also all the players' names were misspellings of them. I used to hate that in football games. I really did.
Licensing issues, didn't they? So
that's it. So the fact you could edit your own team names and do things like that. I never went quite as far as you did, but that sounds quite fun now, really. To a cartoon All-Star 11 or something, that'd be...
that probably existed as well, mate. There was nothing out of limits with me when I made the team names. It was just something fun. I mean, I did it all properly at the start. I think when I first got the game, I did make it, I changed Oren to Owen and Shellor to Shearer. Some of them, my Backham was another one, I remember.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Things like that.
He just takes a little bit of, I think I pointed this out when I was watching them. I said, just change pay for the licenses, you type bastards, just give us a bit of something to go on with.
I don't know about you, when you saw arguments of mates at school about which is better, ISS Pro or FIFA, the one thing that they'd always throw at you was, but FIFA's got the real names, literally every time. And you'd have to say, well, it's a better game, gameplay is king, you can change the names. I can't be bothered to change the names, as they come, So it was a little annoying, but he added something to it as well at the same time by allowing you just to change the names.
And I think, in all fairness, my friends over the years when they started playing on, this system and ones after this, and I know they were doing it still years later, they're always playing FIFA. They didn't play ISS, they didn't play Pro Evolution after that, or PES as it's known or whatever. But I've always preferred this game. I've gone back and tried to play FIFA games. I can't play this game. It's just too fiddly. I mean, when I play FIFA 18, I'll no word of a lie, I thought it was very, very good. I thought it was a good game, this, but still had me thinking, perhaps I'll go and get Pro Evolution and see what that's like. And if you master Pro Evolution, it's great. I mean, I think I had 2009 and 2010 later on, and I used to love that again because you create yourself as a player in the game, and then you're in the game itself, and you build yourself up and playing for a low team, and then transfer around, and you're scoring all these great goals. I mean, I've scored some fantastic goals playing those later games, and because it's me doing it, it's my name on the back of the shirt.
Just be a pro, it's called.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and it's that's all it is. All you're doing is building your own abilities up so you can move up and play for bigger and better teams.
As 2010, I think, was the first. Thinking about it, it was the first game I owned on my 360, and I put so much time into it.
I remember I got picked for England while playing not for a particularly big team and scoring like loads of goals at the World Cup or something. It was just like,
I was playing Dutch football when I got picked for England. It's great.
Yeah. I can't. It was just. I played a lot of time in France. I was playing the French leagues for a couple of years. It was just great fun. So the game's progressed from there. I know that recently it's FIFA sort of overtaken it, which is a bit of a shame. But that
kind of lost it around about 2012 to 2013. I'd say it kind of lost it for me.
But those years, the evolution from ISS into Pro Evolution, it's just the most playable game, and it's the first thing you look for when's a new one coming out. And I've had so many variations of it over the years. It's just a great game, and it really started with that one, Rob. And I think you got to go back to that one and hold that with the high regard it is. And for those people who don't know what we're talking about, it's the one with Paul Ince and Fabrizio Ravanelli on the front. So
face to face.
And again, very, very common game to get, very, very cheap to pick up. If you've got a PlayStation, when you haven't got this game, you like a bit of football. God's sake, why haven't you got it? Go and get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can only echo that.
And you love it so much because you did that video couple of years back now, 18 months ago now, where you sort of did some gameplay on it. And
my first time in over 10 years, wasn't it? I'd literally played in ages, and the first thing I did was put the ball forward and score from the edge of the box. Yeah, even that clip made my special video I did for 1,500 subs as well.
That's right, and I owe Carl's Room 70 a great deal of thanks, because he sent me a copy of that game, so I hadn't got it. Because I said, I wanted to do a response to you, and I hadn't got it. He said, I've got a spare copy of that, I'll send it to you. So, and I was able to do exactly the same thing. And I remember playing it for the first time, thinking, yeah, it's almost as if I hadn't put the controller down in 25 years.
During lockdown, I actually streamed it over a few nights. I tell you what, one of the most successful streams I had. People were loving watching it.
Yeah, Friday Night Football.
I think it was the highest viewed, streams I ever did.
Was that Friday Night Football? Was it?
Yes, it was. Yeah, just when I was furloughed and had loads of time. I did a fighting game. I did Friday Night Football.
I think I only came in to sort of annoy you every time you scored a goal by saying VAR checking.
It's funny because you then leave it a little bit and then you go goal stats.
Yeah.
You reviewed a red card of mine, but no, I got a proper incident because I was well ahead, and then all of a sudden I was struggling. I was getting draws, and then I managed to pinch it. But to think back in the day, good old saying it in it back in the day.
Yeah,
I used to be able to play that on level 5, which was obviously it was level 1 to 5 on that difficulty wise, and I used to be able to win the league quite. I wouldn't say easily, but I could win it comfortably. A lot of 1-0s because it was but I used to be able to do it, and I did that on level 3, which is the middle one, and obviously I struggled. Towards the second half of the season, and oh god, I think I'd get murdered playing level 5 now. But again, go back to early, we were talking about getting good at games of repetition, so
that's right.
Put time into it like I did back then when I used to play it every day because I loved it so much. I might do it again.
And you just keep going back to it over and over again, wouldn't you? And okay, you've won all the leagues, won all the cups and everything like that over and over, but you still go back and play hard to have a quick, world tournament or something, and you just do it. It's like everything else. You just quick couple of hours on this, and that's it. That's what you need to do, and everything is right with the world again, isn't it?
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. Right. So we spoke extensively there about the PS1.
We did.
And where do we go to after PS1? Next in the line for the bear.
Well, we need to find out what happened to the Mega Drive, don't we?
Well, I was getting the feeling you might not want to tell that story. Because, it's a belt of a story, actually. So please take it away. Go on.
Yes, go on.
Your next console, please.
Yeah, because it sort of ties in with it really a little bit. Yes, obviously the Mega Drive has to make way. It's gathering dust. And I'm very pleased. Obviously, if we go back, I sold the 2600. The Amiga sadly ends up down the skip at some point, which is something I still drastically regret doing. The PC eventually gets exchanged not long after this for an upgraded PC because I find out that I have to end up playing the new release of Championship Manager on an upgraded PC. The PC I've got won't run it. So, not being the technically minded person, I'm just sort of like go and get some extra memory. I decided to then go and buy a brand new PC from Time, which is the only thing I've ever bought on 12 months interest-free credit, which is really weird because I could afford to buy it outright. I just chose not to. So, I bought the PC, put the 800 quid I'd have to pay for it in 12 months' time to one side for 12 months in an ISA. So, I got a little bit of interest, and then I would pay for that 12 months later. The only reason I got that was because also, not just for the Championship Manager, but the fact that it got a DVD drive on it as well. I was quite into my film, so DVD was still quite expensive to do if you bought an individual recorder, so having a PC with a built-in DVD on it was quite useful. But it never worked properly. I think it was to do with the graphics card, but it just didn't work properly, so it's a bit of a waste of time, really. So, in between this, obviously, Mega Drive has to go, and I take it down to one of my local independent shops, which I'm glad to say is still there, going strong today. Owned by somebody different now, but because there's new SmackDown games coming out on the PlayStation, which we talked about. Great new SmackDown games coming out. So I'll go and trade my Mega Drive in for a SmackDown game and Spice World. It was quite funny because I rang the shop back. Did you still take Mega Drives in for trade? Because a lot of people at the time weren't doing it. They just were not interested. I'd taken all my Mega Drive games into Birmingham to, I think, Electronics Boutique, expecting to come out with a pirate's booty of money. and they were just going like, yeah, we'll give you £2 for that one, £2 for that one, £1 for that one. It's like, what? I paid 35 quid, 40 quid for some of these. They're worth more than that. Oh yeah, this is the pitfalls of trading stuff. Even back in the late 1990s, early 2000s stuff, they still give you nothing for them. And I think, you know, my 40 or so Mega Drives games would have netted me about 60 quid. I thought, I'll take them back home, thanks very much. So probably about 18 months later, I ring up my local independent saying, you still take Mega Drives? And the bloke goes, yeah, we'll take it. And he said, can't give you a lot for it. I said, no, sorry, I want to cut the PlayStation 1 game. So he said, yeah, bring it. And he said, if it's any good, he said, we'll give you, I don't know, 50 quid for it. I mean, even so, with all them games I mentioned earlier, 50 quid for that, bloody stealing it. So I ended up taking it into sorry?
Just saying hindsight, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So I take it into the shop, and obviously there's a different guy there who said, oh, no, we don't take those anymore. Now, bearing in mind, I'd actually carted this thing in the box, the Mega Drive in the box, with all the games in 2 carrier bags to work on the bus. And then I'd taken them from work, walked down the road with them. And I said, what do you mean you're not going to take them? I rung up yesterday and, you know, you're going to take these for 50 quid. Oh, we don't buy them anymore. I said, well, bloody hell, mate, come on. And then luckily the bloke who was on the phone to me said, oh, do you ring about that? Yes. I said, yeah. He said, yeah, so I agree we take it. He goes, oh, God's sake, what did you do that for? All right. He said, give it here, we'll take it off you. He said, you want anything? I said, yeah, because it just come out. I said, oh, have you got a copy of SmackDown on PlayStation 1? He said, yeah, we got some out the back. I'll get you one of those. I said, oh, have you got a copy of Spice World as well? He sort of looked at me. He said, yeah. I said, can I have that as well? He's like, okay, if you want it. And I was massively into the Spice Girls. I'm sorry, like a lot of people were.
That's
so,
born.
well, yeah, that's right. And people joke about it. And yeah, they're absolutely right. It's a terrible game. It's a rotten game. I knew it was rubbish before I bought it. I'd seen the reviews for it. I knew it was terrible. But, you know, I was a big Spice Girls fan.
I mean, it didn't have a gripping storyline.
Well, as I pointed out to somebody on the stream the other night, I think they're misunderestimating the strategy element of Spice World. The strategy element is to leave it on the shelf and go and buy something else. But that's what it was, Rob. You know, back then, you know, that's what the sort of crazy shit I was doing. You know,
they were massively popular at the time. I will give you that.
And I was a lot younger, so yes. You know, I probably would have been 22, 23 at the time. Obviously. About 14 years older than your average Spice Girls fan and of the wrong gender, but even so, we had conversation. We remember sitting around a pub having conversations. So if the Spice Girls walked in, which one would you go off with now? Yeah, as conversation we used to have, and we'd have these weird and wacky theories as to why. We were playing pool the one night down one of the pubs local to us, and we were talking about Catherine Zeta-Jones. So I'm going to tangent here, but I think it's quite funny. And that's all, yeah, Catherine Zeta-Jones, yeah, she's good, and she. I was like, oh, God, no, really? They went, what's wrong with Catherine Zeta-Jones? I said, she's Welsh. And I just fell about laughing. And we just got these ridiculous theories as to why you wouldn't go with, you know, you wouldn't be interested in a certain lady if she walked in, because of the most ridiculous reason you could think of. So, you know, yeah. Innocence of youth, I think. But yeah, that's why my Mega Drive ended up being a copy of SmackDown on the PlayStation 1 and a copy of Spice World. There you go.
Spice World.
But I'm proud of that, mate. I'm proud of that.
It's your legacy.
It is.
Your legacy, isn't
I should be remembered for that, yeah.
So it might be forgotten. I'll give you that.
and
game appear on other shelves in other collection videos since from a lot of people that may have mocked you. Yeah. We must remember that. You're absolutely right. The amount of people who did take the piss out of that when it came out, and the amount of people who said, actually, I've got a copy of that. And more for you because, you know, the generous soul that is Dana, he actually gave me a copy of it. He said, it's going to go a manual with it, but you can have mine. So he got a copy of it, probably knocking around for resale somewhere. So he passed it on to me. But yeah, a lot of people have since admitted that they've got a copy of it. And believe me, they aren't PlayStation completists either. So they claim they were in a bundle, but they didn't have it, so they couldn't get rid of it. Yeah,
but they've still got it. Yeah,
legendary story, my friend. Always will be. Always will be.
I'm proud of that, mate. I'm proud
glad we got that in there.
Yeah. So we're still talking about the PlayStation 1, aren't we? So after PlayStation 1, right? PlayStation 1, which I then had till the end of 2002, by which point I've moved out of home, and I'm now I met Claire, and we're now living together in our first house, and we got the PlayStation 1. It's not been used a huge amount, must be honest with you. And then I'll get broken into, and it's gone. And it's again, I can't remember what was with it at the time. I couldn't even remember to tell the insurance people what was with it at the time, which was a bit worrying. In fact, it wasn't 2000, it was 2002, 2003. I can't remember. No, it was 2002. Then of 2002. My DVD player, which I'd had probably about 18 months previously, is also stolen as well. So, which is really interesting because there was I was watching. I had for Christmas actually. It was 2 days after Christmas. This was, and I'd had Claire had bought me the Hulk Hogan Hulk Still Rules biopic DVD, which was one of the first Silvervision.
I had that, yeah.
And I've been watching it the previous day. I watched the first disc and left the second disc in there. When I was broken into, they took the DVD player with a disc in it. So I've got for years I was carrying around this copy of Hulk Still Rules with one disc. But yeah, so that went as well. Yeah. What was a good thing, because it was Christmas Day, we'd taken a lot of photographs on Christmas Day because we had a dog at the time, and the dog was obviously enjoying himself. And luckily, when the adjuster turned up on the day after we got broken into, I was able to sort of show him all the photographs of everything that was no longer there. So it was a very easy thing for him to sort of make a decision on. So that disappears, and then my next system, which I picked up, was a GameCube. This had been on launch as well, which is really weird for me because I never ever bought anything at launch before. Mega Drive was the first system I bought with my own money. PlayStation 1 was probably the first full price one I bought with my own money, and this was the first and last machine I ever bought at launch. And I don't know why we were so fascinated by it, but I think we liked the look of it and the fact that Claire's a bit of gaming as well. And I said, well, look, this is pure gaming. At the time, it was either PlayStation 2, which was all well and good, but I think, again, I was just sort of sucked in by the huge library of games for it. And, the GameCube was this quirky little thing, a bit different. I thought, well, nobody else had one of these. And, we just want to play games. We don't need a DVD player. We don't need a CD player or whatever. We can just use this to play games on. We quite like the look of it. So I reserved a copy at Virgin Megastores for the release on the day. Now, bear in mind, about this time, the previous sort of stocks of PlayStation 2 are coming and people were getting mugged for them because it was such demand. So when I pre-ordered the GameCube to pick up on release date, I took the day off work to do it, and I said, look, we'll take this, giant sort of sports holder with us. She goes, what are you taking that for? I said, well, to put it in there. So I'm not walking around with a Virgin Megastores bag because people know I've been to Virgin Megastores to buy a GameCube. I'm not getting attacked on my own for this. So he's like, yeah, being a bit cautious. I said, well, I'm not taking any chances. So we got to Virgin Megastores, expecting to, go there first thing in the morning, expect this giant line out the door. Nobody else there, is there? Nobody else there at all. So I walk in and I was like, well, they got any? I'm looking around, I can't see anything. So I go to the counter. I said, I reserved a GameCube to pick up today. Oh, right, yeah, okay, yeah. I said, seems quiet. He said, yeah, you're about the third person we've had in this morning. I thought, what? Can you imagine that now? Can you imagine that now? We're talking less than 20 years ago here. There's just no interest in it. I could have whatever colour I wanted. I think it was purple and black at the time, I think. I had a common purple one. And it came with, I think you had a choice of 3 games. I think it was Wave Race, Blue Storm, Star Wars, Rogue Leader, I think. Rogue Leader, I can't remember. Rogue Leader 2.
My GameCube knowledge is not good.
Yeah, I think Rogue Leader was on the N64, which is a bloody good game, and then I think Rogue Leader 2 was this one, or it was something like that anyway. And then the other one was Super Monkey Ball, which I'd never heard of before. So we were rubbing an iron about it. So, well, look, we'll definitely want a Star Wars game. That's going to be really, really good. And I was like, I can go either way on the other one. And we thought, well, just once we can play together. We could have played Blue. We were going to play Wave Storm together, Wave Race together. But we said, no, I'll have Super Monkey Ball because it's got monkeys on it. It looks a bit fun. So we'll have that one. And that was it. So we put it in the holder, walked out, didn't get attacked on the way home. So that was all right. It was really weird. I thought there'd be so much more fanfare about it. So the Star Wars game is really, really good. It still stands up pretty well, I think, today. But the one we played the most out was Super Monkey Ball. We never seen that before. It was fantastic. 2-player on that, brilliant. And I know Claire got quite far on the 1-player mode when she played it. It was just really, really good. But the problem we had with the GameCube is the fact that the quality software wasn't there to start with. It took a while for it to come out. You had obviously had the Mario game, Sunshine, which is a good game. I appreciate it now. But at the time, it took forever to come out. Luigi's Mansion, which I wasn't really interested in. You got a Mario Kart Double Dash, which obviously I didn't like Mario Kart at the time, but in all fairness, it was probably the game which convinced me that Mario Kart wasn't all unfairness and depression.
Can't you, hasn't that game?
There was ISS2 came out for it, which wasn't a very good football game at all. That one, it was really quite poor for an IS. I remember getting really disappointed that I had the FIFA World Cup 2002 game that came out, which was also not good. And then I think out of desperation, I bought Super Smash Brothers Brawl.
Oh, right.
Was it Brawl? Can't remember.
I want to say yeah.
Yes, yeah, I would have been because Melee was something else, wasn't it? And then what's someone on the Wii? I don't know. It was on the GameCube. I can't remember. And I just didn't get it. I just didn't get the concept of it. These Nintendo characters like fighting each other. I just don't understand it. And I remember being really disappointed with the GameCube. I was like, this isn't really very good at all. And with hindsight, probably I should have given it a longer go, but I just couldn't get on with it. I just really couldn't get on with it. I was so disappointed with it.
Interesting. It makes me wonder if that is a shared opinion a lot, because obviously the games for it now are some of the most expensive. I'm guessing it's because lower quantities out there is probably a factor as well. But it sounded by the story of when you picked it up, because it was around about the same time as PlayStation 2, wasn't it? But that was already out.
Yeah.
Is that, yeah? It's almost like it was a victim of the PlayStation 1's success, if you get where I'm going with this. Because that did so well. Everybody wanted a PlayStation 2. Of course, everybody wanted a PlayStation 2. Nobody, or certainly not as many people, then wanted the GameCube. So
yeah, it was strange because I mean, when it was announced, it was like, oh, well, it hasn't. You can't do DVD, can't do CD, but
that did its cause.
But also, you know, I always associate Nintendo with, you know, I'm not a Nintendo fanboy by any stretch of the imagination. I've always associated Nintendo with making, you know, good quality game, you know, being a quality games maker and focusing on the quality of their games. So for me, it's like, well, you know, if we want a games machine, this is the ideal thing to have because Nintendo are really, really good at this. And it's only been in the later years that you see, you know, the games are, you know, consider how long the games are still ridiculously expensive for it, and they've never ever dropped in value. Even the cheap. Yeah, even the cheap games, are a few quid each. You know, you look at PlayStation 2, you look at Xbox, you look at even PlayStation 3, Xbox 360. The amount of cheap games you can buy for under £1, it's ridiculous. You try and find a GameCube game under £1, unless it's out of a charity shop or a card book, it's impossible, absolutely impossible.
The old sports games are a couple of quid now.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
Yeah, I think, you know.
They are. There's no sort of WrestleMania 18. I think is probably one of the cheapest games on there. But yeah, that's a couple of quid each, a couple of quid, £2.50, something like that. And you're right. I mean, some of the top tier titles are still. I'm lucky. I've got a lot of the type. I've got Sunshine. I've got Double Dash. I've got Luigi's Mansion. I've got Dodging a Giant. I've got one of the Mario Party games. So I've got quite. You know, I've only got about 50 or 60 GameCube games, but I've got a lot of the really big titles.
Certainly something you don't want to start now, is it?
Oh God, no. You would not want to get involved. Not want to get involved in something like that. You know, even if you went after the prestige titles, you're still looking at hundreds of pounds. Just absolutely ridiculous. So, unfortunately, the GameCube didn't last all that long. It ended up getting traded in for an Xbox, which again was not my idea. A lot of these things aren't my ideas. You know, if it'd been down to me, I'd have bought a PlayStation 2. But we thought about it and we thought, now I'll get the game. You know. And then when I said, well, the GameCube's no good to us, I'm going to trade it in for PlayStation 2. And Claire goes, oh, don't trade it in for, get an Xbox because you can do a bit more than Xbox. You've got the hard drive into it and it's got a DVD player and obviously you can buy the adapter for it. And it turns out you can do an awful lot of things with the Xbox, chipping it, for example, which is what we end up doing. So the GameCube gets traded in, I get an Xbox for it because we chip it, then I can, you know, start downloading stuff from the internet and making my own discs and that's it. In all fairness, that Xbox we traded in for is still the only original machine I've got from back then I still own. It's still working after all these years, and it's a great little console. I say little console. It's a brick of a console. Yeah, it's a big. Yes, it weighs a ton. Don't drop it on your foot because you'll never walk again. But it is a really good system. I know a lot of people hate the controller. It's not the greatest. We'll be honest, but
the Duke.
Yeah.
I don't. Do you know what? I know people don't, but I don't mind it. I quite got no issues with it.
I don't hate it. I hate other controllers and other systems, and I'm going to get into that now, but I do. But yeah, it was just great. And you had the whole. I always associate. You look back to the Xbox catalog, so many games of first-person shooters on it. Halo, Slowkiss. That sort of started off. The Call of Duty series as well started on that particular system. Completely revolutionised it, and you got all these original Xbox games coming out. And don't forget, Xbox, Microsoft were completely new to the console market. We talked about, you talk about Sony entering it beforehand. Microsoft take a big leap in themselves, and technically, take quite a big share, and then they've always been a big player ever since. It was quite a risk back then, and it's got the Microsoft stench to it as well, because a lot of people like Microsoft products, and that's why we have Linux now and as a different alternative operating system to Windows, because people hate Windows. So it's a great console. It's got again, fairly limited library. It's only about 700. I think there's some 800 games for it, so it's not a massive amount. So if you want to go after an Xbox exclusive only on Xbox collection, you can probably achieve that quite easily. And a lot of the games are quite cheap for it, and they got their own exclusive. Yes, they didn't get things like Resident Evil, but you got your Dead or Alive games on there. You got the Halo, games on that system, which just elevated it. It gave you an original title, which made PlayStation 2 owners jealous, and people will buy an Xbox just to play Halo on. That was what really created it. And I love it. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and it's great because at one point we had a real problem with our home media years later. Home media system, which we used through the PlayStation 3, had sort of stopped working. And we actually managed to use something through the Xbox, which recreated that. So by the time the Xbox was probably about 10 years old at this point, and it was then able to sort of stream all our media through the television. It was brilliant. It really worked fantastically well. So I've got a lot of time for the Xbox. It was way, way, way better than the GameCube. And up until about 2.5 years ago, was quite a cheap system to collect for.
Yep. Everything seems to go that way at the moment. I'm now suffering it with the one that I like the most. That seems to have taken off recently, very recently.
It does happen. I was connected to a retro gamer magazine article, because it said, if you want to collect for the Xbox, these are the games you can get for like less than £2. And I thought, hang on a second. And as soon as they did that, about 10 of the games they featured shot up by about £3 or £4 in a couple of weeks. I don't know why.
As bad as Metal Jesus making it a hidden gem as well, isn't it?
Almost as bad. Almost as bad. And I thought I was buying a lot of Xbox games really, really cheap because nobody wanted them. And all of a sudden that article appeared, and the price of some stuff which was really cheap went from like, I took a couple of quid, it's going from like, £1 or £2.50 or £2 or £4. But if you're, as I was at the time, working on a budget, that pushes a lot of games out of your reach, and all of a sudden that system becomes slightly more expensive to collect for.
Yeah.
It's a good one now. If you can get into it, I thoroughly recommend it. It's a great system, and
it's interesting that obviously I'm big into Xbox now, but I never started there, and I don't know why. Honestly, I'm sitting here now. I'm thinking, I don't know why. Nothing drew me into it to start with, but then obviously the 360 popped along, and life changed for me.
It's strange, that, isn't it? I'd like to think.
Just trying to think of games that, is anything that passed me by that, could have drawn me in. And I know you touched on shooters, but obviously they were still good at racing games as well.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't
exclusive, but they had the outruns on it. And of course, the Xbox was the birth of the Project Gothams as well.
That's right. You've got, yeah. Forza as well. First Forza game started on the original Xbox.
Yes, yeah, the original Forza, yeah.
And then that's still a very, very good looking game. That very, very good looking game.
Yeah, it was the Horizons then started on the 360.
That's right.
The motorsport side of things started on the original. Sorry, don't call it that.
Yeah, don't know. No, the OG. Don't call it the OG. That's right. I've been in my Xbox collection out a bit now, so I can't actually just check on some original titles. But yeah, I mean, it was great to collect for it, and I've got about 300 or so games. I'm probably nearly halfway, but I've got no room for any more now, so I can't get any more on that one. But yeah, I loved it. It's still one of my favourite systems. And like I say, if you can chip it, I mean, I know you've got an arcade version, haven't you? Now, sort of like loaded with arcade and stuff. Yeah,
modded very kindly, gifted from Santa Sean.
Yeah, and and I've got all my emulator discs running through it as well, so it's ideal. And I've got two now, so I use one strictly just playing Xbox games on, and the other one just for using emulated software through, which is great. So
Coin Ops arcades run on it just beautifully. It's really good.
Yeah,
really good. And I can actually use it as an original console, but obviously the games are all joining the backwards compatibility program. That's kind of kicked off again. They're throwing a couple of hundred out, and of course you can now play a lot of those on your Series X. So that will bump the price of a few of those up, as it's
hopefully
already been experienced with the 360 stuff.
Hopefully all the cheap ones that I've got, which will go up in price now, which is quite good. So I'll be happy with that.
If you've got Ridge Racer 6 or Blood on the Sand, 57 Blood on the Sand on 360, stick them on eBay now, because I think in a year's time they'll calm down again. I hope that is just a prediction. That's not a guarantee. I just hope I'm right, because unfortunately, of about 250 that I need, those two are bloody missing, aren't they? So.
Oh, you're joking.
Yeah, it's always the two that I'm going to need, isn't it?
But I remember, I'm trying, because there was, what was it that shot up in price dramatically when he went backwards compatible? I think it was Indiana Jones and was it the Stafford Kings?
It was on original Xbox, so I'm not really clued up on which ones of those went backwards compatible too much.
It was. As soon as that went backwards compatible, that went from being £1 game to about 15 quid overnight.
Yeah, I mean, they'll do that because it'll just run better because they upscale it as well. So it'll run better on the Series X or even the One.
And the same thing happened with Modern Warfare 2 on the 360. That went from being like £1.50 game to 18 quid overnight, but it became...
Top 2 was the one.
Well, was that one of them as well, was it? Yeah.
Modern Warfare went backwards compatible as well, Modern Warfare 2, but Black Ops was the one that really got popular, Black Ops 2.
Yeah, strange, isn't it? Really crazy.
Accessibility, isn't it?
That's right.
Make it more easy for people, they want it. So...
So, after the Xbox...
Which, sadly, that was your only Xbox experience in this timeline, so yes.
Yeah, well, but believe me, don't get me wrong, I'd have wanted to go down the 360 route. Because when we decided to upgrade further, I mentioned we did go for my next one, this PlayStation 3. But again, it's one of these situations where I think, you know what, the best thing to do is buy an Xbox 360. Why do you want to buy an Xbox 360? Well, because there's lots of software for it, so you can get loads of cheap games for it. It's great to play on. It's got this HD DVD thing built into, or you can buy for it. We can use that for it. And you can play online. So the counter argument is, well, okay, yeah, there's lots of software for it, but is the software any good? I don't know. There's rumours going around at the moment this HD DVD thing may not be any good, and everybody's throwing it out behind Blu-ray. And also on PlayStation 3, you can stream all your home media through this. So why don't we go and see what the best one to go for is? So I'm in the shop, me and Claire, and I'm desperately saying, 360 over here, it's cheaper. And by the end of it, we come out with a PlayStation 3, don't we?
It was a seller for it.
It was. It was probably, I think we got it just after all the major film studios turned their back on Microsoft and went with Sony. But yeah, the having a Blu-ray player built in to that, which is probably about a £200 to £300 pound worth piece of kit on its own, as part of the actual console itself. Even though the console itself was still fairly expensive, I can't remember what we paid for it. I think we paid about 315 quid for it. But in terms of the amount of use we got out of it, not from a gaming point of view, Rob, to be honest with you, we did have games for it, but the gaming was very much secondary for a long period of time. It was very much used for anything else. Then I obviously got into playing Pro Evolution Soccer, and Claire got into playing her first-person shooters, and got into playing online and things. So, I mean, from our point of view, it's probably the best console we've ever had in terms of usage for the pair of us out of it. And like I said, because of the media streaming and the Blu-ray facility on it as well, we're both into our films. It was just absolutely ideal for it, and so much so that our original PlayStation 3, which was an 80 gigabyte one, the fat one to start with, we just missed out the 60, which would have been great if we'd had one of those, because that was backwards compatible with PlayStation 2.
So yeah, that's what I've invested in since for that reason. But then I've invested into the reason you bought it for a Blu-ray player, and that's space saving.
That's it.
I've got one console that's sitting there instead of 3. You know, it was brilliant.
Yeah, it was, and to have this and so long and actually run it into we literally ran it into the ground. It eventually developed the red ring of the yellow ring of death. Sorry, when it went to be repaired, it was repaired, and then broke down again about 4 months later, and then we sent it away for repair again. We just outside the warranty, so to pay for it again, and it came back, and eventually it completely gave up the ghost, and it's now completely dead. Mrs. Bear's had a go at it, and it is unsalvageable, sadly, which is a real shame. But yeah, there was some games I put so much time into on that. Other games I bought which I didn't really play a great deal of. But I think a lot of people don't give it the respect it deserves. I think it's one of the better. Do I put it above the 360 or not? I like the 360. I don't know why. I do have an affinity for the 360. Of no, my playing time on that is probably.
It's the early reliability that let it down of the earlier models. You get past those early models, and you get one, the later ones. Then you'll be fine.
It's always a system I wanted. I did get one cheaply enough, and a good one after that. So years later, but my playing time probably compared to that to PlayStation 3 is like every 10 hours are probably about 2 minutes on the Xbox 360 compared to it. But it doesn't mean I don't like that system a great deal. But yeah, it's probably the system I spent most time playing, probably since playing on my Amiga back then, or my PlayStation 1 maybe. It's right up there with it, certainly.
I quite easily agree with you in saying it is a little underrated, to be honest with you, in comparison to, I suppose, those before it and after it. The PS4 and then the PS2. That's biggest, most selling console of all time, isn't it? As well.
That's right. I never really liked the PlayStation 2. For years I wanted one and I got one, and I'm maybe because I prefer the Xbox. I don't know what it is, but I always feel a slight sense of underwhelmment when I'm playing it. Not because it's a bad system and there's some bad games on it, not for that reason at all. I just don't get the same love for it that I get for the Xbox.
No, I feel you on that one. I mean, I went Dreamcast, didn't I? I didn't. I scooted around the PS2 as well, and the first. I hate saying original Xbox just because you're here, but it's just easier. Because the trouble is, you say to people, "I've got an Xbox," they will instantly say which one. It's just easier.
Yeah, and then the answer is the Xbox.
Yeah, but which one?
Yeah, the Xbox. There's only one called Xbox. It was like Xbox 360, Xbox Series X, Xbox One, Xbox. I don't know, Pelican Crossing, something like there's stupid names attached on the end of it. The Xbox is the Xbox. It's the original one.
Yeah. Right, now I'm going to ask my question now, because obviously I've got your entire timeline here, and most people can see behind you in your videos what you have, and that's a giant wall of Wii games. Mm-hmm. So tell us, Mr. Bear, why is the Wii not in this timeline? It has to be addressed. We can't scooch around this.
No,
you're quite famously known for it on the tubes now, your Wii collection.
It's the only reason I'm known on the tubes. That's it. Nobody else watches for that particular reason, other than when's he going to get rid of that pile of crap behind him?
Far too humble, sir.
Well, look, the Wii was a complete accident. Okay, we'll touch on the whole Wii thing now. We'll get it all out in the open as to why it's there. Probably around the time we got the PlayStation 3, maybe afterwards, a friend of ours gifted me a Wii. Now, when she bought it on release and brought it around not long afterwards, you got to play on this and see what it's like. And at the time, I wasn't really, I've got the Xbox, but I wasn't really playing it. I was emulating a bit of stuff because we found out that I was playing a bit of MAME on the laptop. But again, not massively. I'm playing mostly, Football Manager on my laptop, and that's all I'm doing. So she brings the Wii around. She, you got to try this and go. Of course, she brings Wii Sports around. You play a bit of bowling, And I used to be quite good at bowling. I used to bowl in the low 200s quite a bit. So I've got to feel I'm not doing. Again, go back years. This is when I used to play quite regularly. So she puts bowling on, and it's very difficult not to put your back into it and give it a really good go. But it was so really, so wow, that's really good. But it's really good. So let's try golf on it. So we put the golf on. And I'm like, that's just really good as well. And so much to the point that I'm actually on the verge of actually doing myself an injury by trying far too hard, swinging the old Wii remote, giving it the proper stance and everything, and getting far. I play a bit of golf, not great, but it's been a long time now. Yeah, so I'm really getting into this. Like, she's really good, and she takes it over. So I declare, so we got to get one of those. She's not in. No, you're not having one of them. Why not? We don't play on the Xbox. You didn't play on the GameCube. Okay. So it's waste of money. You're not going to play on it. Okay. So I don't play on it. In the meantime, my dad gets one. My dad of all people gets one because he's played it around his sister-in-law's house, and he's having so much fun. Oh, you're going to buy the old bloody kit, buy Wii Fit ball and all this bollocks, and he plays in it about 3 times. And my sister comes back from New Zealand. He plays on it with her. Then it's gone back in the drawer. That was probably at least 9 years ago. It's probably still sat there now. I still haven't been offered it yet. I don't know if he's still got it or not. I'll have to ask him. It's been a long time since I broached the subject. So he's got one. And then our friend is moving flats. And she's moving one flat to another. And she wants a hand moving. So me and Claire give up a day to go and help her move a flat, including this giant 3-piece leather sofa with a giant metal frame attached to it, which we have to take up 3 flights of stairs. My God, I couldn't do that now, mate. If I'd done that now, they'd be burying me in the garden behind where the flats are. I just couldn't do it. And we did everything. I even went through, you'll like this, mate. You will really like this. She was getting the Blu-rays and DVDs on the shelf. And you know what I'm like in my alphabetisation?
Yes.
I was there, putting them all into alphabetical order for her, doing all that, making sure they were there. Because she wanted me to do that because she knew how I used to have my DVDs lined up like that. She said, "Oh, could you come around and do that?" Yeah, I'll do that as well. That's no problem. Yeah, great.
It's therapeutic to you, isn't it? I get a feeling. It is. Well, yeah. Since I changed my games room around a little bit, which I'll reveal a bit later in a video, or may have done so by the time this goes out. I started doing that with all the stuff I've moved around a little bit. So I really have gone alphabet mad. But yeah, I've got to get that done. But anyway, at the end of this really, really long day, and bear in mind we started about 9 o'clock in the morning, it's probably about 8 o'clock at night. She goes, "Oh, you can have that." I was like, "What, the Wii?" She went, "Yeah. She said, have it as a gift for helping me move house." I said, "Are you sure?" She went, "Yeah. Take it." So she gave us the Wii, which I couldn't quite believe. And it came with, unusually for me, some good games with it. It came with Twilight Princess. Came with Resident Evil 4 and a couple of other games that escaped me. But about 4 or 5. Sorry? No horse games?
No, not in that one. No.
Oh, okay.
Sadly not. So just 4 games. That was what it was. And that was it. So we got the Wii home, and guess what? It went into a cupboard, and that was it. And it was left there. And then when we put the gaming pantry together in, I think it was 2015, to accommodate what I'd accumulated over the previous number of years afterwards, in between that and then, because all the stuff I've been buying had basically just gone into boxes or bags or whatever, and it just wasn't displayed properly. So we completely redesigned the room, put the shelves up, everything. And you know the story about the Wii stack being about 10 games high. That was what it was. When I had the Wii, I added Epic Mickey to it because I thought I liked the look of the game. There was 3 games I bought at a car boot cheap: Red Steel, something else, and another game I'm going to talk about a bit later on. And there was Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, which I think was a 2008 version, the Beijing one. That's all I bought for it over about the 3-4 years I had it. Not that I played them in any particular great way or shape or form, or played any of the games that we picked up at all. We were given with it. And then that's how it started. And then I wanted to add GoldenEye to the Wii, and I kept going into CEX and looking at it and think, well, it was like £7 at the time. It's a lot cheaper now. It's dropped below £4 and then really got back above it. But at the time it was quite expensive. I couldn't really justify spending £7 on a game that's probably going to sit on the shelf. And then we were looking around it, and Claire's with me. She goes, well, that was only 50p. That was only 50p. That was only 50p. It's like, yeah, but they're not very good. You know, at the time I was thinking, well, if I'm going to collect for the Wii, or I'm going to buy games to it, I want to buy good games, like most people start out with the intention of doing so. And then all of a sudden I thought, well, actually, yeah, you're right, they're 50p and 50p. And then we came up with this theory that at some point, if you're going to buy these games, they're all going to go for a complete collection. And it applies not just to the Wii, to any system. That, you know, these 50p throwaway games that nobody wants anymore, at some point are going to disappear. So if you're going for a complete set or something like that, people will be after those ones to complete it. It's a bit of strange theory as such.
Totally.
So that's exactly what I did. So I would then go out and start buying games, and it was the Wii that started it. At that time, CX was still doing 25p games, because I got 3 or 4 Wii games for 25p out of there. And I was just going out with. Sorry? No.
It annoyed me when they rounded them off.
Yeah. I think it was Pro Evolution 2008, one with Michael Owen on the front. I got that for 25p. That was one of them, certainly. Okay. That.
They used to do 10p games, didn't they? They used to get rid of Fifas for 10p, I remember.
They did, yeah. And that's how it started. I would go at 20 quid to CEX, and I'd come back with like 30 games. And that's how it started. But then it sort of infected everything else. It wasn't just the Wii I was collecting for. It was like, I could do the same with PlayStation 2 as well. I could do the same with Xbox, which is what started from there, and any other system. And that's why I started doing that, because you could, yeah, okay, some of the games are absolutely rotten. You wouldn't want to play them, but it just happens. And when people ask me if I'm going for a full Wii set and they get disappointed when I say no, it's because I never intended to start out getting a full set. But I could, get a huge amount of games for not a lot of money. But somebody who just likes playing games, it's a good way of doing it. Yeah, if you want to go around and go after all the high prestige titles, and a lot of people do. A lot of people collect, they say, I want to go after 100 games for the Wii, 100 games on the Wii. Fine, that's great. A lot of those games are going to set you back quite a bit of money, but that's what you want to do, fair enough. Me, I just wanted to go and buy games because I like playing games. And if they're rubbish after an hour or so, and I spent 50p on it, I don't really see what the issue is. I could probably sell it for £1 on eBay, or I could, sell it for £1 at a car boot, still make me money back, and make a little bit of profit. That's not the idea. I just want to buy the games and keep them. So I know amongst that pile of Wii behind me there, Rob, is a load of rubbish, and believe me, there is. But that's not the point. The point is, I like playing games. At the time, I was probably more of a gamer than I am now, but I would still get my money's worth out. If I spent 50p on that, I'd put an hour into it. Is it any good? No. I'm going to play it again? No. But I've played it for an hour, so I've got a bit of attachment to it.
You know what? A few things there that you said that I can relate to. I obviously, I was always into 360 for ages, but I was very much play the game. Me, achievements. If I got the 1000G out of it, I'll move it on and get another game with it. And then I decided, no, I want to collect for this system. And I was saying the same thing about 360 games about 3 or 4 years ago, is this is when you want to start picking up as many of the cheaper end stuff as you possibly can, because there's going to be a time in the future when, this system becomes nostalgic to people, and people are going to start getting the system and collecting it. And obviously the Wii's going to go, or, could potentially go the same way, like when you did. Obviously I'm not very clued up on the inflation on that as I am with the 360, so I know that, to a degree I was right. Some games didn't, a lot of games did. But, when you say about the games being only 50p, like I said, you cannot go wrong. And I know, I like to think I know, that you're a little bit like me, and even if a game's rubbish, you still want to experience it, and you get a little bit of fun out of it, because it's almost so bad that it's fun because it's bad. You know what I mean? I don't know. Am I right? Is
Yeah.
that something you know?
Yeah, I can buy a cheap rubbish looking race on the PlayStation 2, and I will still get for £1, and I'll still get some enjoyment out of it, even though it is bad.
The worst thing, someone tells me it's bad. I'm like, I need to play this now.
Yeah,
It's actually worse than finding out for myself.
You are right, and there's that morbid curiosity. Oh, is it really that bad? I did it years and years ago, Rob. I would go and I would look in a magazine and I would see a game with a bad review, and I think, you know what, I like the sound of that game. I'm going to go and buy it. And you know what, I buy it, and yeah, it was terrible. The magazine was absolutely right, but I was still interested in playing that game, even to find out it is absolutely terrible. And I'd much rather spend 50p on a terrible game and find out it's terrible than go and spend £40 on a new release and find out it's terrible, and then you're a bit stuck with it then, really, ain't you? 50p, you've lost nothing. 40 quid, as some people would say, that's an entire year's worth of gaming budget to me. Not so much anymore. My circumstances aren't quite as tight as, my budget's a little bit more flexible now than it has been. But at the time, that was what I was, I want to, collect games. That's what I'm limited to. So that's what I'm going to go and do. And yeah, there are some absolute gems in it. What have we said for years and years? I've always said for years and years, Ghost Squad on the Wii. It's one of the best games on the system. It's no more than £1.50. Don't ignore the fact that it's a £1.50 or £1, and it's meant to be crap. It's a quality game. I'm sure most people have looked at it and thought, oh, that looks really terrible, looks like bloody shovelware, and left it on the shelf. Honestly, you're missing out. And
also, I always say reviews are someone else's opinion, not your own. So, a lot of the time, I suppose these people are, I guess, professionals, and, and a lot of the time, most people's views are going to be the same, I suppose. But at the end of the day, yours is still different. You still may get something out of it. So, always, try a game yourself. So, and can I just say, before we even move on anywhere, but early days when I first started doing YouTube, and obviously we stumbled across each other. I think did you find me first? I don't know. I
think I may have done. I unleashed you on the rest of the world. I think that's what it was.
You're to blame. So, but no, one of the things that hooked me in about your channel was just is the pickups that you were making early on. You'd always see something so random, and like you said, it was always so cheap a lot of the time. You become, we sort of got tagged with the 10p game thing, didn't you? Or was it a pound? No, it was a pound game. A few of us used to call it. Yeah, it cost a bear.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
up for a pound.
Half a bear, 50p. Yeah,
half a bear, and the bargain bucket.
Well, the bargain bucket did happen, didn't it? I mean, everyone knows that story. Yeah, cash converters. We get rid of all these games like 10p each. It's like, what? I mean, there were games which were selling for 7, 8, 10 quid in there. I'm just not going to ignore that. And that is the perseverance of somebody doing something like that for years. You're limited to that. All of a sudden, someone presents you an opportunity to buy, the Arkham. All the Arkham games for the PlayStation 3, Rambo on the 360, which the same shop was selling it weeks before for 10 quid. Now because they've had it for so long they can't get rid of it, they're selling it for 10p. So perseverance. I'm now in the right place at the right time. Yeah, I'm now going. We worked it out, didn't we? I spent something like £3 if I traded it. So if I traded it all in, I would have got 60 odd pounds. I think if I'd bought them individually, it was closer to 90 quid, something like that. I mean, it was a sensational thing to happen. It's once in a blue moon. It's never happened again since. It was a few years back now. I don't think it'll ever happen again. But, so for years of buying horse games and FIFA games and crap PlayStation 2 races, all of a sudden you hit the gold streak once, and that's what it is, and it pays off a little bit. And again, sometimes those investment, I bought Sin and Punishment on the Wii for about £5, I think it was, from Game years ago. I think it's a 40 quid game at the moment. And there's other games. I picked up Harry Potter on the Xbox. It's not quite as expensive as the PlayStation 2 version, but I paid £1 for mine. And I think that's 50 quid now. Gregory Horror Show, I paid £2 at the car boot sale for PlayStation 2. That's a 60 quid game now. So, sometimes, and again, to look at those, okay, it's Harry Potter. Oh, it's Harry Potter. Not really interested in that. Gregory Horror Show, what the hell's that? Never even heard it before. Looks like some kids game. Although it's got like a slightly adult rating on the front of it. But, you wouldn't look at it twice. You look at it twice now because of the price tag.
All I'll say, mate, is never say never, though, because, like I keep saying, people always ask me, like, because I wouldn't say I have a massive hit rate, but I have a reasonably successful hit rate. And they say to me, how do you keep finding these? And the simple solution is I just keep going. I literally keep going. If I told you every day I finish work, I pass 7 charity shops on the way home in one town. I go to them every day after work. I go to them all on one of my days off as well when I'm in the town getting my other stuff to survive the week, and then I visit the 2 big ones as well. So like 6 out of 7 days a week, I'm going consistently, and that's just got to keep going. And that's how, recently I found Resident Evil Survivor 2 for the PlayStation 2 in a charity shop for £1.
You did.
And it's like a £40 game. And I've been going to that charity shop for ages before and not found anything sort of above worth £5.
I'd nearly message you about that because I thought, I wasn't quite sure we're going to keep it or not. I thought, do I make him a cheeky offer and say, if you think it's said of it, let me know. But I know you've moved it on now.
It's now in good hands. Yes.
Well, I know where it's gone to, and it is in good hands. You're absolutely right.
That was honestly, literally, I'm not even overemphasizing this. It looked like it just been made quality. So there was no way I was going to let it in the hands of a CX for someone to potentially ruin. So I made sure it went to someone who would appreciate it.
It was very pristine, that one. You were very lucky. But since now I have my circumstances have changed. Like I'm more of a budget now. I can work a little bit higher. It's nice adding quality games to your collection, but sometimes it's not quite so much fun. Yeah, because the great thrill of just walking into a CEX or a charity shop and find all these games on the shelf for like £1 or a couple of quid, or finding that game which is worth a little bit more than that. You don't, okay. If we're honest, we go out and we hope that sometime we find a game out there we don't pay a lot for, which is worth a lot more. So in a way, it boosts the value of our collection a little bit. We'd be lying if we said we didn't go out and try and find bargains and things like that. But when you're able to go and buy something a little bit more expensive, like I have been doing recently, it's okay to do that. But I don't know, it's not quite as much fun.
You know what, I can share your sentiment there with it not being quite fun, because like I go to CX while I'm in that town as well. The town's got CX, and I go into there and I always have a look to see if there's anything that I haven't got that's quite cheapish. My theory with CX, by the way, is if it's single digits, I could potentially buy it for outright cash there and then. If it's double figures or more, I'll always use vouchers that I save up. But anyway, I don't even go. Apparently, it's possible to go on the store locator, look up exactly what the store's got in stock. So you know before you even walk in there, and then you can try and find it. I don't do that. To me, that's not fun. I like to go in there, try and find the new stock, and just see what's in there without even knowing.
Well, we're in the middle of a massive tangent here, but I think it's quite relevant. but I will say I've done that. I've used a store locator, and I've done that if I'm going further afield. Because I've always had this here. I would much rather give my money to charity shops, second-hand independent shops, independent retailers than CX. Not because I hate CX, because I don't. It's been very good to me over the years. Yeah, I've had bad experiences like everybody else done, but that they are there as a business to make a profit. And you look at some of the trading values that they'll give you on some games, what they sell them for, and you think, how are you getting away with it? So if I was going further afield and I went to a load of charity shops, as probably has been the case over the last 2.5 years on and off with all the lockdowns, the stuff out of charity shops, second-hand shops, has been less, and I've had to rely more on independent game shops and CEX for picking things up. So I know if I'm going to Worcester, for example, and I've as I've done before, gone around all the charity shops, my usual second-hand place is absolutely nothing. I will check the store locator before I'm going to go down there and check their stock to see if they've got any games that I could pick up. So if I don't find anything, I know I can go to CX and pick a few games up. At least I'm going with something thinking it's not been a complete waste of time. I might spend more money, and I might be a little bit more, what's the word? Feel a bit strange about giving them the money instead and not write about it. But at the same time, I still add in something to take home with me to make it feel like it's worthwhile.
Yeah. No, I get that. If you're making a longer journey, I suppose, it does make sense. But like I said, this is always local to me, and I'm always passing it on certain days of the week. So that's how I deal with it. But anyway, you're right. We've gone off on a major tangent.
We have,
here. So
yes.
While we're in this generation, because this generation contains your last of the 6, that you're allowed to choose for pleasure. And I love his choice. So throw it at us.
Well, to be honest with you, I could have taken any, not this particular one game I've picked out. I could have taken any game in this series or any game of the other series that came out at around the same time, because being somebody who's tone deaf and absolutely no experience whatsoever with creating the medium that comes from this, it's quite strange that I'd choose to take it with me. But my final game of choice, and I know I said to you Guitar Hero 3. It doesn't necessarily have to be Guitar Hero 3. It could be any of the Guitar Hero games, with the exception of Warriors of Rock, because that's fucking awful.
And
Greatest Hits, I don't mind Greatest Hits, that's okay. But the Warriors of Rock one...
Other games.
But you take that one with you, wouldn't you? But it could be Rock Band 1, 2 or 3. I'm not really fussed. If I could have a combination of all the best tracks from those games and have like a sort of mega Rock Band Guitar Hero compilation with me, I'd take it with me. But I'm completely and utterly not musically inclined in the slightest in terms of being able to play an instrument. And I know it's not playing an instrument because it's not, is it? You're not playing a guitar. No. But the fact you can play... Yeah, but the fact you can play along with songs that you recognise and know, albeit not the correct versions in some of the early versions, but certainly from I think Guitar Hero 3 onwards, there's less sound alikes on there as opposed to proper tracks. It's just a fantastic game. I can pick it up and play it on the easy level and be incredibly happy.
Same, mate. And a lot of similarities, by the way.
I can play some tracks I know reasonably well to a average standard on the next level up where I need more than one finger. Obviously, beyond that, I've got absolutely no chance whatsoever. I'm being booed off very, very quickly. But I can get better on a desert island. I can practice. I can play better. Exactly. I can put some time into it. It's a concept. It's not, is it the giant plastic guitar? Probably, yes. But it's the quality of the sound game, the music on there as well. The very, very first one I had was Guitar Hero Aerosmith, which is really weird because I hate Aerosmith. But it's not exclusively Aerosmith tracks. There are other tracks on there as well.
Apparently, and I bought. Band, but yeah.
You are sorry.
Apparently, they're selected by the bands.
Yeah, and there's some fairly good ones on there. But I think they got stronger and better as the series went on. I think Rock Band 1 I got a huge amount of play out on the PlayStation 3. Purely because there's a couple of really good tracks on there that I absolutely love, and that I will just sit there and play that. But great memories for me sitting on a Sunday morning in the lounge while Claire's doing something else and I'm sat there with the guitar out. Probably around this time, Claire's mum was living with us for about 18 months when for whatever reason, I don't want to go into that. She was living with us for 18 months or so. So she'd be sitting there on a tablet or a laptop. Claire was doing something else, and there was me with the telly on, with my plastic guitar out, strumming along and playing Guitar Hero Aerosmith. And it was great. It was great. And I was amazing myself sometimes with the way I was playing the songs. And it's one of the very few games I've ever downloaded additional content for. I downloaded the Creedence Clearwater Revival soundtrack because I love that particular band from the early 70s. And I paid £3 for that. So only time I've added any extra content to a game just for that. And
say something, doesn't it?
It does. It inspired me to, because it's on my old bloody PlayStation 3 drive, so I can't get it off there because that's almost knackered now. But Band Hero as well, when that came out, that's got such a weird mixture of songs on that. Generic pop music alongside standard sort of guitar songs as well. And I love the SingStar games. I can't sing a note to save my life. So, but it doesn't stop me collecting SingStar games on PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 and Lips games to the 360. I've got those. I've even got the microphone to go with it, the one that lights up. And the Disney Sing It games for the Wii. Why? I don't know. The Glee games for the Wii. Why? I don't know. But I just love anything to do with music. which is really weird to say because you know what I'm like. I don't listen to music at all, but those games just inspire me to sort. You know what, I'm going to have a go at this now, and I don't care if I'm crap because there's an easy setting. I can just enjoy myself and have a bit of fun, and no one will care anything else. And just playing Guitar Hero for the first time and getting used to it. What was interesting, just before we finish, move on to the stuff, so I appreciate we have got nearly 3 hours here, Rob. So it's one thing to get other people to talk on your program for 3 hours. It's something else for me to go on for 3 hours about it. So
no, mate, honestly, your story's been fascinating, and let me just say, you've absolutely nailed it with the franchise. You picked the best game in the franchise in my eyes as well. A lot of the stuff you're saying is totally relatable to myself as well. I've got to be honest with you. Once it's above 3 buttons, I'm effed. Should we just say?
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna, but I'm quite happy just to stand there and play on the easy mode with the 3 buttons and just enjoy myself and listen to the music. And I've got to be honest with you, that game has. I mean, the track list on Free is amazing. There's a lot of songs on there that I legitimately already like. I think Pearl Jam even flows on there, and obviously Through the Fire and Flames, Dragon Force, that's on there as well. I mean, this game got me into a new band as well. It actually opened my eyes to some more music. There's a song in there called Hard to Breathe, I think, by Five Finger Death Punch. I loved that song so much that I play it over and over again because it was the only place I had it. So I thought to myself, why not hunt down the album that it's on and give that a listen to?
There you go.
I believe the album is called War is the Answer that it's on. And I love that album. I really do. So, you know what I mean? It just opens you up, like that as well, potentially.
It does. I think what was interesting, because my dad is a keen guitarist. I'm not saying he's any good, but he's been playing guitar for as long as I can remember, and he still does. And when I got this the first time, he came around and said, "Oh, have a go at this." He said, "Well, what are you going to do?" So I explained to him, and he got the idea of it. He said, "Well, it's not like playing a real guitar." I said, "Well, it's not meant to be, is it?" But I said, "Well, listen to the song." I said, you can hear by the song, you can look at the indicator on the screen, you know where your fingers need to be, and you're strumming at the right time to go in time with the music. So if you know I always think if you know the song, it helps, because you know
the buttons are timed.
You know where it's going to be, and he could understand the concept of that. He still thinks, obviously, he's not. He said, "Why don't you buy a real guitar?" So for God's sake, you're missing the point here. But if I want to buy, I'll go and buy Rocksmith or something and play it that way. Or, even the beat. I'm not a massive fan of the Beatles at all. I hate the Beatles. But I tell you something, the Beatles Rock Band is one of the most brilliant games they produce in all these Guitar Hero Rock Band games. One of the very best games. It's amazing to look at. I've got that on PlayStation. It's a beautifully designed game, and you know the songs. You might hate the Beatles, but you know the songs, so you got a fighting chance of actually being bloody good at this game.
Play it yourself, mate. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Green Day one, not so much.
I'm not.
I'm a bit of a Green Day fan, but that game, nah.
What I wanted to get was the AC/DC one, but I haven't found that one yet. I did actually
pick that up, but I haven't got around to it yet.
I saw it. I saw it a couple of weeks ago, and I left it on the shelf, and I went back the other day to get it, and it'd gone. So I'm a bit miffed at that now. But then that was me being tight bear again, because I spent that much money recently. I wasn't going to spend £5 on it, but I thought, you know what, I should have done, because I went back to get it the other day and it disappeared. But they're just. I know a lot of people. They're old hat and a bit passé now, and a lot of people don't remember them well. But don't forget, for a long period of time, these were talked about games. These were must-haves, and I'm very lucky to have what I've got with those, and I've enjoyed them all the way through. Yes, some of the games might play a few tracks from, and that's it, but don't care. If I can sit down and play "Gimme Shelter" from the Rolling Stones, or you can go your own way by Fleetwood Mac for a bit, I'm very, very happy. Very happy.
Yeah. The series was a phenomenon, and obviously it just got tired. That was all. And
that was it.
They never really took it anywhere, and they did bring it back with Guitar Hero Live, which I've since recently played, and I'm not a fan of it. I've got to be honest with you. I don't like the new. Have you played Guitar Hero Live?
No, but I again kicked myself because I saw it on the Wii U. Someone sent it on eBay last year for £10. Complete set with the game and the guitar, and I thought, I'd only not play it, and I should have bought it.
I've had a go of it. I can't get on with it. I don't like it. Rather than have like the buttons as it did before. It's got 2 banks of 3 next to each other in a row, like a top button and a bottom button, 3 in a row. No, I just don't like it. I ended up playing it with 1 row of buttons, and it kind of defeated the object. And unfortunately, it just wasn't for me. And again, the series has unfortunately died off again. So it's a shame.
I would like to play it. Can I just mention one other game here, which is completely unrelated, but if anybody ever wants to go through a weird sort of one of these rhythm games you come across, it's on the Wii, so I thought I'd get a recommendation in for that. It's called Battle of the Bands. And it's a dirt cheap game. I think it's by Disney, and it's got a limited soundtrack on there. But the idea is, it's a really weird thing. You're in a band and you're up against another band, and obviously the idea is to play your song better than the other one, and it gives you a song, but all these bands have got different genres. So like there's a rap band, there's a country and western band, there's a marching band. So during the course of the song battle, the music switches between one and the other, but you might be playing one of the tracks on this game is Insane in the Brain by Cypress Hill. So can you imagine a country and western version of that song? Can you imagine a marching band version of that song?
I'm laughing already.
Yeah. And that's what happens. So if you're playing that song, you're a country and western band, and they're a rap band. You'll hear the rap version of it, and then all of a sudden, if you're winning the battle, you start hearing the country and western version of it. It's bonkers. It is absolutely bonkers. It really, you've got to play it to experience it. And like I said, it's a dirt cheap game. £50p to £1.50. You can get a couple of hours enjoyment out of it, like I've did. It's great. And sometimes you can actually listen to the songs individually. And honestly, some of the versions that are completely different from the original ones are really worth listening to. They really are. They really are.
I need to find a way of listening to this now.
You can find it, I'm sure. If you go on, I'm pretty sure you go on YouTube and type in Battle of the Bands song track, you'll be able to listen to some of them. It's bonkers, mate. Got
to at some point. Right then, so we're at the end of your console history now, aren't we? Really? Well, we've got 2. Is it fair to tie them together?
Yeah, I'll just touch very briefly because I mean, although there's something I don't use a fat lot of. Just over 4 years now, I got a PlayStation 4. 4 years ago. That was because I was changing my phone, and part of the deal on the package was you can get a PlayStation 4. Oh, so that's what I did. And it's replaced the PlayStation 3 as the main console in the lounge. It's probably got more play out of it in the last 6 months or so than it's ever got this entire life before. People, obviously, regular viewers of my channel will see me pick up more PlayStation 4 games than old games recently. Obviously, I've been playing Fall Guys a lot on it as well, which is a fantastic game. I thoroughly can recommend to people. It's
been quite fun watching you play Fall Guys, mate. I've got to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That game very draws you in. Even if you're not playing, you still want to watch it.
That's it. And it is a great party game, or playing with people across the internet. It's superb fun. Really is. And I've got some, I've been trying other games. I've tried Spider-Man recently. What else have I been playing on it? All but another one recently as well, which I haven't shown off yet, which I should talk about in one of my upcoming, or probably by the time it's got out, other pickup videos I've done. So yeah, it's there. It's it gets used as, again, more to do with Amazon Prime videos and Blu-ray players and things like that. But I've got my money's worth out of it, certainly. And to get a new phone, a PlayStation 4 at the same time for the price of a phone was pretty good. So that's why I had it. And 2017, was it afterwards or probably not long after I got the PlayStation 4? My dad bought me a Switch for Christmas, which was completely unexpected. But that's because I played on my stepmom's niece's Mario Kart version around their house, and I thought, well, that's Mario Kart in it. She was beating me thoroughly, so it's the usual stuff was happening. Somebody else having to go at me at Mario Kart, even all these years later. But I quite enjoyed it, and obviously my dad was scratching around for ideas for Christmas, and he spoke to Claire, and he said, do you think Russell will want a Switch for Christmas? She's like, yeah. Okay, we'll get him a Switch for Christmas, and that's what it is. He bought me a Switch for Christmas, and he's been adding games to my collection ever since. I finally bought my first game ever on the Switch recently. I've got about 10 games on the Switch. They've all been gifts, either from me dad or Claire. But I love it. I just wish I could appreciate the Switch a bit more. I really do. I think it's probably come a few years too late for me, sadly, but I will still play it every now and again. I've got Rayman Legends, which is a great game. Can't get into Breath of the Wild to save my life. The Crash Insane Trilogy, I'm still convinced there's something slightly off with the controls on it. It's still good, but I think it's slightly off. Mario Kart 8 has really been the game I've played most on that as well. It's really given me my appreciation back for Mario Kart, in all honesty. And I've gone back and played some of the other games now and actually enjoyed them, which I wasn't doing originally. And obviously before all this, Rob, going back to 2009 is when I started recollecting all my retro gaming stuff. So everything pretty much now I've got on display in the pantry, and apart from my Xbox, it's pretty much been collected in the last 12 years. So, and that started at car boots, just picking up old consoles here and there, which I hadn't had before, or I'd played on but not had, and then just finding whenever I did. So, every system I've got now has come from just buying stuff over the last 12 years, stuff I've never had before, stuff I had before. I've now got another Amiga 500, I've got now a 1200, I've got an Atari ST for the first time ever, 64 Spectrum. I recently acquired an Amstrad for all my 8-bit stuff. I've got a 2600 again. All the major consoles I picked up cheaply. I bought my NES with 6 games for 20 quid off eBay. I bought a SNES, a Saturn, and a Dreamcast with about 10 games for each for 45 quid off eBay. So going back, 2009. Commodore 64 and a total of around about 300 odd games across compilations and whatever for 50 quid. I've been very fortunate over the years to get a lot of stuff quite cheaply at the right time, and to have such a great collection as well. So,
Mate, that's how it's done. That's how it's done. You do it, a bit of patience, budgeting, and over a period of time. I mean, unless you have got the money to throw at it, it's not something, that's going to build up very quickly. Unless you, I don't know, a bit strategic at times as well.
Yeah.
You've got to build it over time and
You're right.
and build it up, sort of thing. So, yes, I was going to say it's an expensive hobby to get into now around the board, isn't it? So
it is very much, yeah.
Certainly booming now. So, have we reached the fun part?
We have reached the fun part.
Fun anyway, by the way. Let me just put the disclaimer out there. This is the bit that's always, I think, it's always got the most intrigue as well. Because I know that we had a situation where someone picked a game, didn't they? And then it was my second chance, wasn't it? Things like that happen in this series.
That's it.
And do you know what? I know we're going to start with your second chance game, and obviously I can see what it is. And do you know what? When I saw your second chance game, I went, again, I'm agreeing with you far too much here. This ain't right. We normally disagree, but
we do
have a good, healthy debate about it. But no, I saw your option there, your choice there, and I went to myself, do you know what? That could have easily been mine in that category, because I did arcades, didn't I? And yeah. So your choice, Mr. Bear, for your second chance game.
Second chance game is Gran Turismo on the PlayStation 1, and this is the first game. And when this first came out, obviously everybody was raving about the fact that it was going to be the best driving game that had come out ever, and it looked, the dogs. It was great. It was meant to be so realistic, etc. I thought, great, I love me racing games. I love me racing games. And obviously I was sold on all the hype that was coming out about it, so I bought it. And to say I was distinctly unimpressed was calling it mildly. It was obviously, we mentioned simulation about 6 hours ago when we talked about Formula 1 Grand Prix. And this is exactly what it is. It's a simulation. You can tweak all this. The cars are meant to perform as they should do, so you can't go into corners at 60 miles an hour and expect to get round them. You're going straight off into the wall. It looks beautiful. Give it that. It looks great. And the vast number of cars that were available was completely unheard of at the time. The fact you can't damage the cars, as in smash them up, was a bit of a downer. Well, there are games, you want to smash cars, or go and play Burnout or Destruction Derby or something like that. Burnout, another great game, by the way, which I put a lot of time into. So, yeah, you can damage the cars to the point where they won't steer, but that is it. So I just couldn't to the point. I just couldn't get into it. Plus, I had all these driving lessons to do, and I know it's still part of the game now, but back then it was like, I just want to race. Give me something to race with. So I was really disappointed with it.
I'm there as well.
So the reason it's second chance is because now I could probably sit down and try and appreciate what it was trying to do a bit more. I've got, I think, pretty much every single, apart from the one on the PlayStation 4, from Sport on the PlayStation 4, I think I've got every single incarnation of Gran Turismo that's come out. The original 2 on the PlayStation 1, 3 and 4, and the prologue on PlayStation 2, and the A-Spec one as well. 5 and 6, and the prologue on PlayStation 3. And I think I played 6 fairly recently. I say fairly recently, probably in the last 12 months. And I found that more enjoyable. The fact that, you can actually you can still go do the silly little tasks and things to achieve and move on, but you can have a proper race, and it is like racing. Okay, you're still racing sometimes low spec cars, but you still technically got a race going on. It's much more enjoyable. So I thought, well, this is the ideal game to go back and play and to see what it's all about. I know other people have revisited it, in the last couple of years or so, but it's an ideal time to do it. And it probably is a good game and they're trying to get out, but I just couldn't see it at the time. I'm used to playing Formula 1 on the PlayStation 1. Why isn't this game like that? I've played, I'm going to end up playing Metropolis Street Racer on the Dreamcast. Why isn't this game like that? I don't understand. Why is this meant to be the best game ever? I couldn't see it at the time. So that's why I want to take it with me as a second chance.
I totally agree with you, mate, because my first experience, I didn't actually buy it outright. I actually decided to rent it from a local village video shop we had that did games as well. And I rented it, and I was like, I had to get lucky or wait return. Eventually it was there. I was like, yes, brilliant. I get to try and play this game that everyone's banging on about. And I took it home, and I was like, okay, so I've got to learn to drive. I've got to do this. I've got to get my licenses. I've got to do that. And I was just like you said earlier, I just wanted to race. Just wanted to race. And then when I did race, I don't know, it just didn't feel as, I don't know, I want to say pacey, even though it was realistic, I wanted that arcade feel. And, I mean, was it ahead of its time? I mean, it's like, I believe, if Wikipedia has told its facts right, it's the best-selling game ever on the PlayStation 1. That's something like 10.85 million copies.
Doesn't surprise me.
Earlier, But, I don't know, it just didn't draw me in and at the time. Because I did like these fast action. Again, maybe this is like I said in my episode, I started the arcade, so I was all about the arcade racer. And it's something about it didn't draw me in. But as I don't know, maybe it's the same here. As I've got older, I've probably got more time to put into it and probably appreciate it more.
I mean, you would have been driving at the time, would you? You'd have been a youngster at the time, wouldn't you?
I can't remember what year it came out, but probably
we're probably talking 99, probably something like that. 98, 99.
I was just before I was driving.
Yeah, because I was going towards my 20s. I didn't start learning to drive until 2007. So I wasn't even the driver at this point. So I'm thinking, well, did I not enjoy it because I don't know how to drive, never driven a car in my life, got no interest in driving. If I want to go somewhere and get a bus or a train or someone give me a lift somewhere. And I did speak to a couple of people at the time, my friends who had PlayStations, and they'd got it and they said, oh yes, really, really good this. And, it's so realistic, it's like driving a real car. And I thought, well, perhaps I'm missing something here because I don't drive. So maybe that's why another thing it just didn't resonate. But I think it's more down to the fact there's the Daytona Sega Rally gamer inside me which wants to play Daytona and Sega Rally, not bloody driving proficiency test game.
Yeah, I think I was the same. I was going to say I had those arcade games imprinted in my head. I was 17 in 99. So
you might have been close to it then, yeah.
I did pass my test when I was nearly 18, so I probably wasn't driving though when that came out. But it never drew me in to want to sink a lot of time into it, and yet it was that game that gave you the hours out of it. You got a lot if you was into it, you got the bang for your buck, didn't you?
Absolutely
got your bang for your buck.
But give me Forza any day, I'll happily play that.
Yeah, just wanted to go a bit faster.
Yeah, just a little bit. If I hit something, I want to look like I've hit something.
Yeah.
I think there was a reason they didn't do that. I think because they didn't want, all the manufacturers didn't want to see their cars smashed up, or people just go around smashing their cars up. It may be something to do with that. I don't know, but
possibly.
we'll see. We'll have to give it another go, won't we?
We'll see. So if you're going to give that one another go,
Yes.
you know, again, I'm interested in your last choice here as well. I'm interested in your last choice. So, like you've done to everybody, you punished everybody by making take the game, and they have to play it. Is that not the rule?
That is the rule. That is the rule.
You have to play it if you take it as well. So the game that you don't like, but you're going to take anyway and subject yourself to it a bit more it's Sonic Unleashed on the Wii. Sonic Unleashed on the Wii. Now, please tell me about this, because I do actually own this for the 360. And it's the one Sonic game I haven't played. I was very kindly gifted it by Sega Zombie. I haven't got to it yet, but I have got it, and I will play it soon. Because now it's here. Like I said to you earlier about bad games, if someone says it's a bad game, I have to play it. And you put it as a game that's going to punish you. So tell me why this is going to punish me when I play it as well.
Oh, man. I mean, don't get me wrong. We mentioned Sonic briefly on this, and me and my exposure to Sonic the Hedgehog was like most people's on the original games on the Mega Drive. 2D Sonic as it should be. Then Sonic went a bit weird and went all 3D, didn't he, later on in life? And we had Sonic and the Black Knight on the Wii, and Sonic and the Magic Rings, and
Colours.
Colours. Well, but I'm trying to generalise, because there are, Sonic Riders, when it's Sonic Riders and Sonic Gravity Riders and all that. They're fine. They're fine. Free ride. Yeah, there are a lot of good Sonic games which have come out over the years, whether they've been 2D or 3D. But for me, I'm a Sonic 2D man. Okay, that's why I've spoken to you about, my opinion on Generations. I think Sonic Generations is a great game because it mashes up good elements of Sonic 2D and some very good elements of Sonic 3D. There have been some good Sonic 3D games like Sonic Adventure, and we mentioned Colours and those sorts of games which involve speed and racing, which are really, really good. But this one, I can't remember why I tried it. I thought, I'll just try it. I'm going to apply this one. I will put this one and see what it's like. Because this is the one where Sonic gets turned into a werehog, which is bonkers for a start. Why is Sonic going to turn into a werehog? Of all the creatures why is he turning him into a werewolf or a werehog or a hedge wolf or whatever it is? I don't know I don't understand why. No idea why it is. But this game goes in, and don't get me wrong, it's a very, very interesting opening sequence, but you can't skip the bugger. I tried everything at the time, pressing the bloody Wii remote, couldn't skip it. So I'm sitting there watching this wonderful cinematic thing which is building the story up, great. But I still can't understand what the hell's going on. Why are we getting to this point? And then you enter the game, and then it's a bloody tutorial. And not only, first of all, do I know, I've got no idea what's going on and why we get to this point and what's going to happen. I've now got a tutorial with an annoying character who keeps telling me to do these things, and I can't go any further until I do them. And can I pull these moves off? No. So I'm sitting there thinking, this game about nearly a bloody hour so far. I ain't got into it yet. And when I'm playing it, Claire's arrived and watched me over his shoulder laughing her head off for this. I'm getting more and more wound up by this game, more and more and more and more and more, to the point where I think, I get past the tutorial and then start playing it. I'm thinking, this is just... why does this game exist? I can understand why, the Black Knight exists. There's a plausible storyline to it. The Magic Ring, the Secret Rings, I know why that exists. There's a plausible storyline. What is going on in this game? I've got absolutely no idea at all. Who thought up this idea? Who thought this was a good idea for a Sonic game? I have absolutely no idea. Why does Sonic 3D go from... in 3D mode, go from good game to bad game to good game to bad game? Well, why is he up and down? Why is there no consistency? Why is this the end of a long line of crap Sonic games, which I'm fed up playing? It just doesn't make any sense on any level whatsoever. And it's dull to play. So I'm going to sit through all this, do all this tutorial, and then nothing interesting is happening. It is just like any other generic 3D... platformer game that you've ever played. It's just nothing special to it at all. It's, if this game was a colour, it'd be beige, right? It would be beige. It's just, it's there. It does nothing. It is the magnolia of computer games. It's just there. It's not. There's no gaming experience. There's no challenge to it. There's no interest to it. There's no desire to go any further with it because you've seen it 150 times before. Sorry, mate.
There's a redeeming quality. Is there a redeeming quality you can find about a game?
Well, you've got the instructions in it. I suppose that's probably the manuals with it. I think it was cheap. I think I paid an awful lot for it. I mean, don't get, I'm the sort of person who'll buy the same game across 3 systems. This is the only version I've got, and I know there's a PlayStation 3. And I know you usually mention the 360. I've not even gone down that route with some of these. I've got worse games. I've got bad games across 3 different systems. Okay, the sum of those parts is better than the one version of this I've got of Sonic Unleashed. I just don't understand why this game exists. I really don't. It's mad. I mean, I know a lot of people probably expect to say Tony Hawk's in this slot, or some of the games I don't particularly like. But honestly, this game just wound me up something rotten, and I now use it as my go-to sort of like if I want to slag something off or drop a bad game in at any point in particular time. So it's like Spicewheel. Spicewheel gets dropped in for a laugh. I now drop Sonic Unleashed in for the same particular reason because it's that bad, and I never want to see it again.
See, now maybe it's not a Tony Hawk's game because you don't like the genre, whereas this you just don't like the game. It's because it's that bad. But one thing I will say, by the way, is I totally agree with you about Sonic. I've said this about Sonic a lot. Another quick note. Totally agree. Sonic Generations, by the way, great game. If you haven't heard of it, never played of it, I think it's a little underrated for what it is because it gets lost amongst that sort of shit area of Sonics, Sonic 06 and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. But Sonic has had a real roller coaster of quality in games. The quality is up and down all the time, so I totally agree with you there. I always said sort of Mario is sort of a level plane, not too many dips in that. It's very level, but Sonic, Jesus Christ, he goes up and down all the time.
There's very few bad Mario games. I mean, I don't know whether it's because the fact that if Sonic was still, Sega was still going strong, would they have allowed all this, stuff to happen to him? Probably not. The drop off in quality does. I mean, okay, I think Sonic R was not great on the Saturn, and a lot of people don't like Flicky's Island. Although I do quite like that one, to be fair, but. The quality really does start to drop off with Sonic after the end of the Dreamcast. And then he's now become, I'm not saying that, they said there are good games. Sonic Mania, although I haven't played Sonic Mania, I understand it's going back to Sonic's roots. It's a lot better than a lot of the recent Sonic games. Then again, apparently Sonic Forces is absolutely shocking. So, we get one good game, we get one bad game. You never, there's no consistency. And
racing games, he's had a couple of good kart races.
They're brilliant.
I've got
both of those games are great.
Team Sonic Racing, the recent one that they made, not so good. But the two on the 360, the All Stars and All Stars Racing Transform, both solid games.
Those two, I've got the Transformed on the Wii U.
Transform, turn into other vehicles while you're racing. So much fun.
Thoroughly recommend those games, but the consistency just isn't there. And whether we have Sonic Unleashed is sort of like the sort of low point, I don't know. I mean, I dare say some people have got their own opinions on a poor Sonic 3D game. I don't think they're all great. Some of them are better than others, but they just there's just no consistency. Would this have happened to anybody else had the control been there? Probably not. And it's a shame, really, because think where Sonic was 30 years ago. He was the new kid on the block, and that is what sold so many Mega Drives and made him that mascot and that well-known thing. And the way he's been treated probably in the last 15 years or so, I don't think any other character's been through the same, problems.
Roller coaster, yeah.
Really it sounds like we're talking about a real person and their career or something, but it's like we're talking about Robert De Niro. Yeah, De Niro before 2003 was making some great films, but since then they've all been crap. 3D De Niro is not as good as 2D De Niro. No, of course it'd be stupid. It's
Sonic.
Well, yeah, you can make your own judgment. I'm not overly keen on that one either, to be honest. But
I said good,
you know,
not great.
yeah. But we're gamers. We play games. These things matter to
Yeah.
us. So it's we look upon Sonic as a favoured character. We expect. We used to get excited. Sonic 2's coming out. The excitement of Sonic 2 came out was unbelievable. But now it's like every time there's a new Sonic game, it's like, there's a new Sonic game out. Okay. What is it, 2D? No, it's 3D. Ugh. Or, he's driving the car or something. Ugh. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's just, you're watering the concept down.
It was the first time in ages people got hyped for a new Sonic game.
Yeah.
That was fan influence, wasn't it?
And it doesn't necessarily mean that I said they're not all bad games. I mean, we mentioned some of my collection now, all my Sonic games are hidden by the only one I can see is visibly Sonic Unleashed, bastard. But there are colours. The ones where he's racing and they're high speed racing, they're good games. But when you stick it in some like adventure mode and God, don't want to play that. Not interested.
So there we go. Sonic Unleashed is your teasing game.
Yep.
Are we there? Have we made it?
I think so. I think I've not broken the record either. That's all right. There's nothing worse than breaking
the record. Do you know what? There's something I've done here which I've not told you about. I'm going to ask you something here, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Obviously, there's 2 episodes. You've still got to record, so I can't count those. And I haven't added today's in. Yeah, season 2 has been 19 episodes, by the way, mate. I think you've really given yourself. You put a lot of time and effort into this, and I think you should be rewarded for it. Personally, how much hours do you think you put in to the 19 episodes that you've done so far? Have you added it up? Because
have you? Oh,
that's Pedro VHS Bootleggers. How many hours do you think you've put into this series?
Good grief. Well, that's going to be what? So Nerdy Geezer was episode 6, wasn't it? I think
it's the first of season 2, as you called it.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to, because we did. First 5 we did was Griffo, good old Griffo, back at the very first episode. Then we did Retrohead Steve, which was a technical disaster. Time
Warp James.
Time Warp James, that was split over 2 parts. Was it just those 4 we did start with? I'm sure somebody else, wasn't there?
I went back and Nerdy Geezer was your first of what you called season 2.
Okay, so Lee would have been episode 5. So Pedro was 24. We're recording these out of sequence now, so I'm 27. So it was a 19 episode. I don't know, 58 hours.
You've done some maths there, haven't you? Because you've done 60 hours and 30 seconds exactly in this series.
Good grief! That's 3 days, nearly 2.5 days. That.
Do you know who your longest and shortest are from this season?
From this season,
without looking.
Shortest, I think was Paul, the Ink Northerner. Would that be right?
No.
Lee?
He was the 3rd shortest. I've written the top 3. Yep, your shortest was Lee the Nerdy Geezer at 2 hours and 28 minutes.
I mean, to be fair to Lee, we were trying. Obviously, that was the first. I mean, if you go back to the very first one, Griffo was under 2 hours. I mean, that would be a sensational thing to achieve now. And that's not because Alex didn't have anything to talk about. We just hadn't got. That was the first one we ever did. And I think with Lee, it was the first one of a new series. I think we just trying to tweak things slightly. But I thought that was a good conversation. That was probably the shortest. So Lee was the shortest one, yeah.
Lee was the shortest. Big Am was second at 2 hours 44:41, and then Northerner was 3rd. Right. Where are we? 3rd shortest, 2 hours 45:09. Who was the longest? Not including yourself today.
That was a 2 hours 45. It was really tight as well. That was probably the longest one today. I'd like to say Essex Retro Gamer. I think that was probably close to 3.5 hours.
He was the 3rd longest at 3 hours 32 and 19 seconds.
Feed Me Chicken, possibly.
Feed Me Chicken was the longest at 3 hours 36 minutes and 57 seconds. Retro Ram 88 in the middle at 3 hours 35:55.
The reason Feed Me Chicken went on so long, and I love this guy to bits, so I take the offence because we had a 25-minute conversation about how to hold an N64 controller together correctly, which was I really wish I kept the video of that because that was just fantastic. It really was, and it's one of my if I was to put down to my favourite moments, that is going to be up there in the very very sort of top 5. I would have thought that was great. But I mean, Rob, it's been great to do this year. I mean, I know we're recording Saturday. I've still got 2 more to do. We should have gone out by the time this goes up. But I'm just great that so many people have agreed to do it, which is great. And I know there's a lot of people who couldn't get on or weren't able to give me the time to do it. And I understand it's a long time to do. And believe me, if I can make these any shorter, I mean, obviously I proved myself today that 3.5 hours is probably about the right length of time, but it's just physically impossible to, in a nice way, get people to not talk so much about their hobbies. But you can't. I've done it myself now. I've done 3.5 hours.
Let me just say, like, look, not only as your friend, but as a fan of your channel as well, that these are, I love these because, like I said to someone, if I'm ever gaming and I don't want to listen to the game, I want to put something on the background, I can just bung one of these on and I haven't got to flick for another video after 15, 20 minutes. And I can sit down and legitimately sit through these and enjoy them. And when I was going to say, I'm so glad that you decided to take the hot seat yourself. And this is the finale, is it, for season 2? So
It is because after this, which is the 18th of December when this goes out, which is hopefully the right date, it's gone up on at the right time. I'm going to take a few weeks off, and a few people have already told me they're available in January.
So season 3?
Oh yeah. I'm only going to take a few weeks out. Obviously doing this with the podcast as well, and all the other streams I'm doing, and I've got coming up as well. I'm in need of a bit of a break, really, from doing these. So they will start again probably in January at some point. I'll start doing a few episodes and getting a few in the bank, as I like to do it, and just upload as we go along. But to be honest, I had no idea how it would go this year. I mean, we've done every weekend, I think, since the start of July, apart from the one weekend.
That unfortunately had technical issues, but you know what, mate, honestly, what you've done is an absolute stellar effort. I have to be honest with you. It's been amazing, and to think by the time you had this time on and the other 2 you do, you could be at nearly you could touch 72 hours, which is what, 3 days?
3 days, yeah. There's a challenge for somebody. Listen to all these episodes back to back, 3 days non-stop without any sleep. There you go, and I'll buy you a drink. Yeah.
It's been an honour and a privilege to be the host of yours for a man who does hosting so well. I hope I've done you proud. I've got to be honest with you. I thought I started a bit ropey, but
you've done a good job
towards the end. But it's my first ever hosting of anything, apart from talking in my own videos. So
you have done a fantastic job, and people, please show your appreciation for Rob in the chat below. He really has done a very good job with this. It's been a delight to talk to him, and like I said, there's a few people I would have insist on doing this, and Rob was right at the top of that list. I'm so pleased he came forward to do it, and it's been great, mate. Honestly, it's been really good. I've really enjoyed it. There's a few things that have come out many times before, and there's a few things that ain't come out before. And I hope it's given people listening to it a little bit of a different perspective of how I've got here, and that's why the reason I do it. We're all YouTubers at the end. We all sit in front of a camera and talk crap. Or in your case, you sit behind the camera and talk crap. But that's it. We're not professionals. We're hobbyists at the end of the day. But if this helps people understand that person a little bit better and a little bit more to them, and you can perhaps relate your own experiences to it, then that's where we're not here to catch people out. I don't care if you've got 50 subscribers or 5,000. We're all the same. We all come from the same position. We all have the same journey, although slightly differently, getting to that point. It's always good to come on and talk about it. It helps people understand you a bit better. And if you haven't been on before, you know where I am. I'd love to do. Come on, let me know.
There we go. So I'm going to say my last bit now, but please stay tuned, because obviously it's only right and fair that you end your season finale by having the last few words. But it felt weird to introduce on your channel, but it's been a pleasure to host it. And from the guy that shouted me out first to hosting a video on his channel, unreal journey, but a fun journey and a good friend made along the way. So I'm going to say goodbye and leave you with the man himself, who runs the channel and runs the series excellently. So goodbye to everyone listening, and to Mr. Bear, say your farewells to the audience.
Well, thank you very much, Rob, and once again, thank you for your kind words and for doing this. It's been great talking to you, and we go back a long way, it's nice really to do something like this, because although we've known each other quite some time, we haven't really had an opportunity to have a sit down and have a proper conversation ever. We've never met, but I hope we will have plenty to talk about when we eventually do that. And as Rob said, yeah, we're taking a little bit of break on Desert Island Games for the next few weeks or so, just to recharge the old batteries. But if you are interested in taking the hot seat, look, you've got no excuse now. I've done it. You know where to find me. Email address is in the description below. There are ways of getting hold of me through other contacts. Do get in touch. You've enjoyed listening to these, go and listen to the other episodes, including the ones I haven't recorded yet, which are going up before this one, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Probably not. It's dead easy. Just come and talk to me. Talk about your game, talk about your experiences. It's so much fun to do. And we'll start season 3 at some point in January. As this is going to be the last episode before Christmas, I just wanted to wish everybody a very, very happy Christmas as well. I hope you have an enjoyable season, best we can have anyway with things going on at the moment, and also a very, very safe new year as well. Thanks to all my guests who come onto the island during 2021, and to anybody who started this last year in 2020. We mentioned you a few moments ago. If you guys hadn't agreed to that, we wouldn't be doing this now. So a big thank you to everybody concerned, to everybody who's been on and come to talk to me, to everybody who's left a comment, everybody's thumbed up, everybody's thumbed down. We've quite a few of those as well this year on some episodes. It's always interesting to see. But yeah, much thanks to everybody who's come across these videos at any point during the year. Thank you very much indeed for your support. Thanks once again to Rob. Don't forget to go and check Rob's channel out as well. What a guy he is. I'll put this link in the description after this goes up, so you don't know who's actually doing this before we started, but I will give him the credit for that as well. What a great job he's done. Let's hope he agrees to do something like this again in the future, because I'm sure he'll agree. He's done a fantastic job. He really has. And that's it. Retro Bear checking out off the desert island. We'll speak to you again very soon, but until then, do take care and bye for now.